What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, Coach Anthony. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it is 4th of July. I want to say happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. You know what I'm saying? Here in the United States, at least I should say, happy Independence Day. And I want to give a big shout out to everybody who's here. Listen, I got a real dope night in store for you guys. So whether you're watching this live or you're watching this later, I could promise you this is going to be very educational. I'm giving you guys somebody who I've looked up to for many years as a boxing teacher in the sport. He's very educational. He knows a lot about boxing. And I love having these conversations with him. Me and him talk all the time. So we're going to have a lot of fun, man. So if you decided to tune into this, you know what I mean? You could thank me later. You know, you could shoot me an email, thank me later, and say, damn, Coach, I want to say thank you so much for this one, because you're not going to get these kind of conversations too often, you know what I'm saying, nowadays in boxing, especially on YouTube with somebody who's going to shed light and let you know a lot about the game. But before we go ahead and get started, as you know, we're doing the 75% off, you know what I'm saying, of all my courses. So if you use discount code CA Independence, you get 75% off, man. All my courses have Eddie Chambers on it. And we go over a lot of stuff, man. And it's just well worth the money, man. You got to understand, like, it's taken me many years to learn a lot of the stuff that I've learned, that I've put into these courses. And you're literally going to be able to get it 75% off and watch it at your house. You know, you can literally just sit on your phone when you're not doing nothing, watch it, get ready for the next day, go home, watch it again. You know, modern day technology is amazing when you use it properly. You know what I mean? So please take advantage of this. I'm going to leave this up there for a little while. You know what I mean? And we're going to get started, man. I'm going to go ahead and say what up to the people in here. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. Big shout out to you, my boy. What's good? What's good, champ? Sprezzatura, what up, Coach? What's good? Rose, Coach, which style should a boxer use? Blah, blah. We're going to get into all that, guys. I'm going to get into all the questions. You know what I mean? We're going to do that. Let's not waste too much time, man. Let's bring my man in. We got none other than Billy Briscoe. Billy Briscoe, what's good, my brother?
What's good, my friend? How you been?
Man, I've been good, man. You know, me and you, we have such good boxing conversations. And I know you're such a low key guy. You don't really like to be in the limelight. But I've always said, man, if the people only heard some of the conversations we had, you know what I mean, how valuable they are. And I know a lot of the stuff that you know and a lot of stuff that we talk about, and I learned so much from you. You don't like to share with just anybody, and I understand that. You know, you come from a time where, you know what I mean, a lot of this stuff is sacred, you know, but now we're in modern day times where people are giving out information. So if we're going to give out information, we got to give out the best information. You know what I mean? So that's why I got you here.
Yeah, but we also can't feed steak to a baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true, too. So listen. All right. So listen, this is what we're going to do, man. First and foremost, before we get started, let's talk to the people a little bit about yourself. Let the people know a little bit about your background, a little bit about how you got into boxing, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Well, my father started me fighting when I was about 6 years old. But unfortunately, he died when I was 7. Because he had me when he was 62. You know what I mean? And he was from the old school, like the real old school, and he was big into making sure you could defend yourself. He told me one time, he said, "There's no shame in taking an ass whooping. The shame is running from it." You know what I mean? So that was his school of thought. And after he passed away, my mother took me to the gym so I could continually training. So I went to it was back then it was called Joe Verns, which later on became Cambria AC, which modern day times is Front Street Gym because Frank Kubek bought it in 1988. And I really never left since then. You know what I mean? I always been in the gym learning and trying to acquire knowledge and practice my craft.
Right. And for those
And
of you
then
who don't know, that's Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. For those of you guys who don't know, he's from the old school boxing area of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the prestigious Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But go ahead, continue.
boxing headquarters, and then as people can see, I got Coke bottles on. I don't see very well. I can't even get a driver's license. You know what I mean? Because they say I can't see good enough. But that's another story. But so I was always in the gym training and working with these guys. So there was an old timer, and he needed help. He said, "Yo, I need you to help me with my guys." I said, "Yeah, okay, sure. What do you want me to do?" He said, "Teach him this, teach him that." So I started showing him some things. And at this time, I was about like 15. So then he told me, he said, "Look, I got these other two guys. I want you to help me with them too." I said, "Okay, sure, no problem." So I started working with them, and they were professionals. And they went on and had a few fights, and I started learning how to train professional fighters at the age of 15. It's an apprenticeship. You don't just buy some tools and show up on the job site and say you're a carpenter, man. And man, you're just nothing but a laborer with nice tools. You got to learn your craft, pay your dues, and earn your stripes. So I started earning my stripes at 15, and I've been working with professional fighters ever since, which will be almost 35 years. I work with a lot of good guys, a lot of good fighters. My most
And
recent
you
guy that I work with, I put a lot of time into. 10 years I put in Gabe Rosado. I had him. He came in the gym at 18. Never fought before in the streets, a lot of fights, but in boxing, he never had any fights. And then I trained him steadily for 2 years. He had, I believe, 11 amateur fights because there wasn't that many 165s here. We beat all the 165s with here at that time, and then nobody else wanted to. We would go to X amount of shows. You know how it is, and show up, nobody for you, brother. All right, cool. So he only had like 11, and then we turned him pro and we was moving steadily. And the rest is
so you
history.
turn you turn Gabriel Rosado. Well, for those of you guys who don't know, if you didn't hear him clearly, he built Gabriel Rosado, who just had a big win. How did that make you feel seeing Gabe win the most recent fight he just had? Knowing, even though I know you wasn't in the corner with him, and I understand that you're not with him, but that's still a big product of your work. You put in many, many years. And me as a trainer, I've been through this at a lower scale where I've worked with kids and then I see them with different trainers and they're doing well, but I know I'm the one who built them. How does that make you feel seeing him win, even though you're not with him at the moment, as his head trainer? How did that make you feel seeing him win this fight?
I was happy for him. You know what I mean? I wish him all the best. He's out there with Freddie now. Freddie's, he's a good friend of mine, and he's very good. And they had a good game plan. He followed it, and he got hit with some good shit. I mean, that dude could punch. That dude, the murderous puncher. They got a video of him.
I got to give Gabriel credit.
And but we always used to work on things like there's things we worked on in the gym that a lot of people might think of bullshit or they don't understand it but I teach a fighter how to get hit. And people say, well, that doesn't make any sense. That contradicts boxing because the other boxer hit, not get hit, it is. But the other man's a trained professional too. It's just like when you go to judo school. Before they teach you how to throw, they teach you how to fall. Because no matter how good you are, you're going to fall. So we would work on, we're in a situation, we're under fire, how to think and relax under fire, which is the hardest thing to teach anybody. Just to be relaxed, dead calm, sense of anticipation is much greater. Bang, bang, you hit, boom, you take that knee because it's better to take a 10-8 round than to get stopped. You know what I mean? Because many guys have went down. Trinidad, great fighter, went down in almost all major fights, got back up and beat the snot out of everybody till he ran in Bernard. But that's another story. But it's all about how you deal with the pressure, how you deal under fire. And we worked on that in the gym. And we worked on other things like how to get hit correctly, because everybody gets hit in boxing. It's the way you get hit. If you get hit flush and solid, you're not going to last too long. You roll and ride, you'll be around for a while. It's like the analogy of an oak tree and a palm tree. Oak tree up here where we're at in the Philadelphia metropolitan area, it comes down 100-mile-an-hour storm. It knocks down the power line. It goes into it crashes into a car. It smashes the house, because it's rigid. And then you got the palm trees down Florida, come down the hurricane force storms, and it only ends up standing because they give. You know what I mean? You got to be like a spring. You got to absorb the impact and redirect it. So, we work on things like that. So, in the worst case scenario, like what the old timers would call like a chicken neck or rubber neck, you get hit with the shot and you just turn with it. Wow, you take it off the chin. So it looks like it landed, and it did, but it didn't land flush.
Would you consider
we work on a lot of things like that?
Would you consider that similar to a shoulder roll except with the neck?
Absolutely, it's the last ditch effort. It's like no other shit, nothing left in the tool bag. Wow, you know what I mean? Roll it off. Guys like Roberto Duran were great with that. Modern guys like the only modern guy I really see that pulls it off very well is Canelo. And it's a shame because that was a Philadelphia thing. All the old timers in Philadelphia, like my mentor, the late great Mr. Wesley Mozart, my guy with the soul, taught me almost everything I know about professional boxing. He damn, they banging off 9mm out back. Sorry about that. Welcome to the Badlands. You know what I mean? Let you know what your neighbors have. So what? Oh, back to the train of thought. I'm sorry about that. All the old timers. My mentor, the late great Mr. Wesley Mozart, my guy with the soul, the late great Mr. Georgie Benton, Mr. Slim Jim Robertson. Oh man, there's so many of them. And I used to watch them teach their guys how to catch punches, and roll and ride with the shots. And you heard the old expression, oh, you got to roll with the punches. Well, that's what they're referring to, roll off the chin. Wow. It's a very old school move, but you don't see it too much anymore. Even when I was a kid and I used to go up to New York, because I used to go up to New York a lot. I had, some family up there, and I would go up there and I would work out while I was up there. And I would go to the gyms up there, like the Gleason's, when it used to be in Manhattan down the street from Madison Square Garden, or Mr. Jimmy Glenn, may rest in peace, Jim, Times Square. The old timers up there was showing them too, So it was an old school move that was the widely used and taught. But now, unfortunately, it kind of fell out of favor,
So you being somebody who's been in boxing for so long, and you had the opportunities to work with some of the great legendary guys in Philadelphia, some of the great old school teachers. And me and you always talk about teachers versus trainers. And that's something that I've always aspired to be since I came into the game. I always wanted to be a teacher. I didn't want to just be a trainer. And I constantly worked on my craft. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to be another guy who just trains guys. I knew that from the beginning. Now, what do you see now?
You do a tremendous job. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know you see me from when I was just a puppy, just starting out.
When you was a puppy, you know what I mean?
Right.
Grow, evolve, a few times,
right.
Evolving, always evolving, you know what I mean? But you're doing the right thing, because like you said, there's a lot of gyms and a lot of trainers, but unfortunately, there are very few schools and teachers left. There's a few left in Philadelphia, but not as many as there used to be. I mean, years ago, there was a lot of good teachers. I mean, you could go to any gym in Philadelphia. Back then, it was maybe 70 gyms. Nah, that's exaggeration. It was like 60 gyms, you know what I mean? All over the city. And you could find good trainers. Good teachers. And there was quite a few great teachers left. But, as time got on and, they passed on and they didn't, maybe somebody didn't latch on and grab that knowledge and bring it with them to this generation. A lot of that knowledge, unfortunately, got lost. Now you get a lot of guys that, and I'm not trying to be derogatory or anything, but they think that being a great pad man is a great trainer. That's part of the arsenal, but that's just one tool. You know what I mean? There's some of the greatest teachers I've ever met didn't even work pads. You know what I mean?
So elaborate a little bit more on that. On give me an idea of how these teachers would do things minus the mitts. Give me some ideas of what some of these guys was doing that you would say you don't see guys today doing anymore.
Well, they were drilling guys. They would take a guy and they would use a heavy bag, which is that's the gold standard in boxing. That's been around for 300 years or so. And they would drill them, you know what I mean? They would make sure they understood the proper range, the elements of a punch: range, balance, range, position, execution, placement, you know what I mean? And they would put them in the right position and they would drill them and drill them and drill them. Because, it was like Customato, the great trainer that had that had Mike Tyson, Jose Torres, and Floyd Patterson. he would always say, you drill a fight and you make him do it right so much he couldn't do it wrong if he wanted to. So they would just keep drilling him and drilling him and drilling him, you know, and a lot of drills, and then, you know, in sparring, whole time, stop. And they would, you know, they would go with the process of developmentation of the skill. They would show it to him on the floor, take it to the bag, drill it extensively on the bag. You know, they would actually drill them and do it in shadow boxing too. They would make them do it while they were shadow boxing. Then they would do it on the bag. Then they would take it straight to the ring, and they would have them pull it off. Like they said, you might have something on the floor, and it might look good, but you don't own it until you can pull it off and fight. You know what I mean? The closest thing we have to fight is sparring. You know what I mean? So that would be part of the progress. Then you see in the gym, they pull off sparring. Then when you see them pull off in a fight, okay, now they own it. Now we can move on. You know what I mean? So they was big on drilling guys until it became ingrained in their muscle memory, and they owned it, you know, and they could pull it off under a combat situation, under fire. Because we know guys that look like $1 million hitting the bag don't hit back, you know.
Right. Mitts too.
Yeah, mitts too. Don't get me wrong. I believe big on, man. I believe the mitts are a good training, a teaching tool if you use them correctly, and they're great for conditioning fighters too if you use them correctly. But when you see a guy that does a 17, 18 punch combination, and the guy's feet never step one foot from where it started, come on, bro, that's non-realistic. You know what I mean? Their feet never move. You got to move, you know. Because if you think about it, everybody that teaches the jab, right hand, left hook, that if they're not stepping forward, they're teaching wrong. Because if the jab is your longest weapon against their closest target, and that lands, and then you don't step with the right hand, how's that going to land? Because the jab knocked the guy back. Now the right hand had to close the distance. If you knocked him back 6 inches, the right hand got at least advanced 6 inches. Boom. And then the hook is a shorter punch than the right hand. So it's going to have to advance because the hook had to go at least where the right hand was just at, if not in front of it, considering if he knocked him back or not. You know, that's why some old timers would tell you, don't when you're throwing a fast right hand, a hard right hand, don't throw a hard jab. Just touch him with the jab, blind him, and put the right hand behind it, because otherwise you'll knock him out of position. The right hand will fall short. You know.
Right. Absolutely. Now, me and you, we've had this conversation.
Whop, and they knock the guy back, and then he throw the right hand and fall short because they didn't close the with their feet.
I guarantee you there's people out there right now that's going to press rewind just to try to catch what you just said. See, I'm used to you now. I remember me and you used to have these conversations. I'd be like, hold on, say that again? Yo, hold up, say that again? But, you know, the words come off.
You know, I came up in a family with a lot of kids, you know.
Yeah, you definitely speak fast, but, you know, for guys out there, man.
I speak fast, you know.
But that's the test, though, right? You know, I said that before. If somebody asks you a question, you got to have the answer. I mean, you talk about that all the time, questions and answers.
Absolutely. That's what boxing revolves around. It. You asked the guy the other day what he thought the ring was, and he told me, he gave me something. I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what I think it is. I'm not saying my way is law or written in stone. I'm just telling you how I believe my philosophy of the ring is. And he said, what's that? I said, it's a series of questions and answers. Every punch you throw at me is a question. Every counter move I make is an answer. When I could give you more questions and you give me answers, you got problems and vice versa. He was like, damn. I was like, yeah, that's just how I see it. You know what I mean? I had an old timer explain that to me when I was a kid. And to be honest with you, I thought I understood it. And I believe I did understand it. But 10 years later, I'm thinking about it like, wow. Now I really, really understand it, because you know you evolve in your levels of understanding. Like Ali said, if you see the world the same way now as you did 5 years ago, you just wasted 5 years of your time. Your levels of understanding got to always evolve. I remember when I was a kid doing plumbing, and they put me in. I was like Flacco. I was skinny as shit, so they would put me in like the pipe chases, and oh man, they would put me in the worst place. You know, I'm sweating pipe, I'm whatever I'm doing, right? And I used to be like, damn. And then I walked away from that for years, and then I was like, damn. Now I fully understand what they were talking about when they were telling me about certain protocols and processes and things. I'm like, damn, you know. But it's the level of understanding.
Yeah,
anything in life, right?
That's definitely true, man. And when you do reach that certain level of understanding, things don't impress you anymore. Things, you know, you kind of just, it's very difficult to impress you. And you see,
and it gets to a point where it becomes very hard to acquire new knowledge. You have to like go outside and acquire knowledge that you can apply or try to apply to your system, because it comes a point where I'm not saying you can't learn anything new, because my mentor, the late great Mr. Wesley Mozart, got it. So when I was a kid, I was like maybe 12 years old. And I asked, Mr. West, how long it took you to learn everything you know about boxing? He started laughing. I thought, oh, I'm sorry. He said, no, I'm not laughing at you, Billy. I'm laughing. You think I know everything there's know about boxing. I thought, oh, come on, Mr. West. You was the best. You knocked out the Bob Montgomery, who was the lightweight champion of the world in 2 rounds when you was 19. You fought the great to draw. I know you won, but they couldn't give it because, you know, he was the champion. And you built the great Dwight Muhammad Kawi from a 1-1-1 instant pro at 5'6" with no amateur background to like heavyweight champion and cruiserweight champion of the world and the international box office. Billy, let me stop you right there. So I appreciate you think highly of me, but let me let you know a secret. He said, you've been in this game 60 years, make 100 world champions, still learn something new. That he said the reverse side of that, though, is you'll be in this game 60 years, 100 world champions, still be some side, you know, doing haters. It's the way it is, you know. He said, but you can always learn something new. So that I'm always, you know, I always believe you can learn something new.
Absolutely.
But it's hard because where do you look? You know what I mean? Where do you look? When you hit this, when you get to a certain level, it gets very hard because there's nothing that I'm not gonna say there's nothing you can't, but you know, I've been looking in different areas now. I've been looking with this, well, for not lately, but the last maybe 10 years, I was looking in the Soviet system, you know, the old Soviet system. I've been looking in the Ukrainian system. I've been, you know, when I was running my gym up in Canada for a few years, you know, I had an option, the opportunity to work with fighters from all different countries, you know, that would come through there with the promoter that was up there, very good guy. And he would bring these guys in and I would be able to try to like pick certain things out, you know what I mean? And, you know, the Cuban school, because Canada, Cubans can go to Canada, they can't.
Let me stop you right there, Billy. Can you hear me?
Sure.
All right.
Yes,
Let me
sir.
stop you right there. You got the Philadelphia boxing system. You obviously learned most of your craft in Philadelphia. That's where you honed your craft. You know what I mean? A lot of the slick Philly stuff the guys do,
Absolutely.
the shoulder rolling, the catches mitt, a lot of stuff that you like to do. Now, when you see other styles like the Ukrainian, Soviet style, and all these other styles that you try to pick their brain, how do you like to blend that into your system? How do you take some of that and add it to maybe some of this, you know, some of these slick things that we like to do? Do you add it in, or do you just keep it for when you meet a certain kind of a fighter?
Both. I mean, because you can always add it in. It's just you gotta find out, because you know, you take 5 fighters and you show them all the same move, they're gonna do it slightly different. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's right for the individual. Like you could take twins that came out their mother moments apart. You know, I like to use Rock and Tiger. Very good guys that were from here. They were twins. They came out, you know, moments apart, and they both fought. They're both trained by the same person. Their father, Brother Nazim Richardson, may Allah have his soul. And you know, he trained them. They probably had about the same amount of sparring sessions. They had about the same amount of amateur fights. You know, same amount of pad time or whatever, training time with the father. And they both fought slightly different. One more of a boxer, one more of a puncher. Same thing with the Charlo. They were both trained by basically the same people up to a certain point, and they both different. So when you give a guy a tech, he's gonna have to take it and put his own twist on it, mold it to fit his system, you know. And some moves just ain't right for some people, and that's okay. Don't force them. There's so many different ways to skin a cat. Now, why we want to skin a cat, that's a whole nother story. But there's so many different ways to skin a cat that you can find a move more comfortable for both him and you that he'll do, because if he has confidence in what you say, and most fighters, I'm sure they would, or why would they work with you? If he has confidence in what you say, do what you want him to do, but he won't be productive at it because it won't fit his style or his personality. You know what I mean? You find a way that's right for both the fighter and, you know, the trainer can give him the teacher could give him different pieces, and, you know, he'll try it out and find out what works best for him. You know what I mean? It's food for fighter, poison for another, and vice versa. What make this guy sharp might destroy this guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. So what do you see? What do you like that what the overseas guys are doing as opposed to what the American guys are doing? What do they do differently that you're not seeing us doing, and what is it that you don't like?
Well, it depends on overseas. Like when I was in England for a while, I went over there, right? I was told that the English were 20 years ahead of us as far as strength and conditioning goes. And I was like, oh, nah, you know, America, you know. But I thought, okay, you know, it's possible. I mean, you know, Europe's a much older continent. I'm sure they have some things with them. So I went over there and I watched them. When I was over there, and I was like, okay. Yeah, their conditioning definitely got a good 15 years ahead of us. I mean, they're scientific next level. I took a lot of this stuff and I incorporated it.
What makes you say they're 15 years ahead of us?
It's the way they do things, you know. It's the science behind it. That's very scientific. Like we may have a few guys here that are on that level, but there's a vast majority of them that's on that level. You know what I'm saying? Like they do so much different scientific thing than it's impressive. It's very, very impressive. And then I watched them train because, strength and conditioning is one thing, but the old timer never had strength and conditioning. Sugar Robinson didn't have it. Joe Louis didn't have it. So is it needed? I'm sure it is. But could you do without it? If you could, of course. But I wanted to see, their teaching and they were good, solid fundamentals. They teach good, solid fundamentals. And I believe that's what's making them successful. Because you and I both know that good, solid fundamentals wins a lot of fights. I remember as a kid, I asked my mentor, Mr. West, I said, Mr. West, what's the difference between a good fighter and a great fighter? He said, well, Billy, there's a few different, but I'm going to give you this. He said, one of the major difference between a good fighter and a great fighter is the great takes time to the fundamentals. He said, one other major difference between a good fighter and a great fighter is a good fighter can make adjustments from fight to fight, where a great fighter can make adjustments from round to round, which, if you think about it, all goes back to being pretty much fundamentally solid in the first place. I said, I got you. It's all fundamentals, man. You know what I mean? Everything comes off fundamental. And then, I did a lot of building as a child too, like plumbing, carpentry, you name it. I read it, man. They had me doing it all. And the most important thing they always taught me, especially with carpentry and masonry, like when we were pouring foundations or laying block, framing walls, floors, was level, plumb, and square. The square of the foundation, or square of the footings, and then the square of the foundation. If you put square, everything square, very simple, very easy. If it's out of square, then you got to start scribing. It goes all the way to the floor, to the walls, to the kitchen cabinets. If you short out on squaring everything up in the beginning, you're gonna have to pay for it in the end with the trim and everything. But if you build everything level, plumb, and square, everything else falls into place perfect.
Right.
So build that fighter, and then the stronger the foundation, the stronger the building. If you build a strong enough foundation, you can put the skyscraper on that. You build a weak enough foundation, eventually a doghouse will collapse, right?
Well,
it's all in a solid foundation, fundamentals.
Somebody asked me that the other day when I was doing my live, and they were like, "What do you see the biggest mistake that trainers are doing?" And I said, besides many mistakes that I see, the biggest mistake that I see is that guys are moving guys along too quickly. They're not developing guys fundamentally before they move them on to the next step. Their stance is off. They're teaching them how to cut an angle. They can't throw a jab properly. They're learning a 4-hit, 5-hit combination. None of the punches have good form of technique because they just want to keep giving these guys something to keep them coming back. But in turn, all they have to do is you end up having to redo all that work all over again because you never perfected any of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But the old timers, and they walk you line until you develop, your proper stance, your balance, your body position, because body position is defense in itself. If you're in the right position, got your hands up, chin down, elbows in, eyes on your opponent, bite down the mouthpiece, got your chin tucked, they're not going to be able to hit you flush, because you're in position. You got good balance, you got good footwork, you know what I mean? And footwork is the third element of defense, because there's only 3 elements of defense in boxing: blocking and catching, head, upper body, move your feet. So if you can incorporate 2 or 3 at any given time, that hit. But that all goes back to fundamentally sound and being in the right place at the right time. But now it's like a microwave society. Like you said, they don't want to put the kid on the floor for months to develop the proper stance, the balance, the jab, be able to move correctly, forward, backward, left, right, cut angles. No, they want to jab, right hand, left hook, shoulder roll, catch a hook, right hand, cut an angle. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a microwave society. Boxing, it's got a very long learning curve. Yeah, they want to do microwave society. They want to do everything in 10 minutes, but it worked that way. Boxing has a very long learning curve. It does. I mean, I'm not a good wrestler, but I did a little bit of wrestling as a child with my brother. He was into that combative, crazy stuff. That shit they was into, like disarming people with knives, all kinds of shit. So I did it with him, and I didn't know nothing about no wrestling, but in about 3 months I was training with him. They showed a double leg thing, and you pick it up, and you would actually be able to apply it on a guy. Now, not on a but you take a guy 3 months and you put him on the floor, and then you take him and you put him against a guy that can really fight, he's going to get smashed. Right or wrong? Because you're not going to develop the jab, the right hand, the left hook, catching punches, all that. And it's not. It takes a very long time to develop solid fundamentals. Like we said earlier, Customato said, you drill a fighter and you make him do it right so much you couldn't do it wrong if you wanted to. It all goes back to 3 things: repetition, repetition, and more repetition. You got to just keep drilling it until it becomes ingrained. But nobody wants to take that time anymore. There are some guys, don't get me wrong, there's some guys, but the vast majority. But that's what we're going back between teachers and trainers. The teachers know that's why they do that, but the trainers, they try to fast forward these guys through the process, and you got to trust in the process. It takes time.
It takes
can't
time.
cut corners. It's like building a house that's out of square. You build a house that's out of square. All the subcontractors coming behind is going to suffer for that, and eventually, not fun sound. It might collapse.
Right. Let me see if anybody out there got any questions. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any boxing questions, I want you to go ahead and throw it in the comments. I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to go ahead and let Billy answer the question. A lot of you guys have boxing questions, you know what I mean? Go ahead and jot it in there. I'm going to be looking out. I'm going to highlight your question, and we're going to answer it for you. I'm going to answer it. Billy's going to answer whatever. But yeah, Billy, man, let's go back. Let's keep talking. What's next for you, man? What are your goals, man? You've been around the block. You've been in the game a very long time. You've been a cut man, a trainer, a teacher, a mentor, a understudy of some of the greats. Where do you want to go now? How do you want to finish your study, a boxing teacher in boxing?
Well, of course, I want to build superstars. You know what I mean? Of course, we all want to do that. We want to find we want to be like my buddy Freddie, and hopefully Manny Pacquiao comes walking through the door. But but at the same time, I'm who I work with. The older you get, the more you realize time is the most precious commodity we have on this earth. You know what I mean? We could have $1 billion. We lose $1 billion. There's a chance we could get it back. Not a big chance, but there's a chance. You waste 10 minutes of my time, I can never get that back. The great Ben Franklin said in the 1700s, lost time is never found again. Yeah. And none of us know exactly how much time we have. You guys have all the money in the world, and we won't know exactly how much, but we could hire people to figure it out. But you can't hire nobody to figure out how much time you got left. That's between you and the Creator Most High. So I'm really not interested in giving away too much of my time with my friend, good trainer, good teacher, excuse me. And he said life energy. I'm not trying to give away too much life energy anymore. I'm very selective who I work with. But I've been working the cuts, but I'm selective with that too. I'm not just gonna work with anybody, you know what I mean?
Right. So what are you gonna do with all this boxing knowledge you have? Man? What are you gonna do with all the knowledge? Are you gonna write a book? Or what are you gonna do? Because you can't take it all to the grave with you, right? You gotta leave something left here. You see what I'm saying? What are we gonna do?
I hope not.
Some, we need something.
Like one of my mentors on the business side of boxing, Russell Peltz, maybe Hall of Famer Russell Peltz. He's one of my mentors in the business end of boxing and things of that nature. And he just decided to retire after 50 years promoting, and he's writing a book. So maybe maybe by the grace of the Lord Most High, I'll find a way, and have a good long career and make it to the Hall of Fame, and then write a book as well. You know what I mean?
Right. Yo, RG, I want you to elaborate on that question.
I started training professional fighters at 15. Apprentice.
See right here.
Both me and Russell Peltz started young. I started training professional fighters as an apprentice teacher at 15, and he started promoting at 22. So he was boy wonder in that. I guess I was boy wonder in the teaching. So hopefully.
Hold on, I'm gonna let you take this one, Billy. When studying an opponent in the ring, what are some things to look for? Basically, how to download the data, so to speak. So basically, I guess how do you pick up on patterns or whatever? Give an example of how you would pick up on patterns if you're in the ring boxing someone.
Okay. Is it referring to do we have tape on the guy beforehand? Do we have recon, or do we have to just go in the ring and make our adjustments from there?
Yeah, RG, are we talking about
if we have tape on the guy? I would like to study the tape.
I feel like RG, you got to elaborate a little clearer.
Both, I guess.
In the ring, or are we watching film? But yeah, go ahead, Billy. What were you saying?
Okay. Well, if we had the luxury of having film, having reconnaissance on this guy, collecting intel, then what I like to do, and I was taught by some really good old school. They studied the film and they would look for habits. They wouldn't look so much for mistakes because a mistake could be corrected in a relatively short period of time. They would look for habits because habits are ingrained, good habits and bad habits. And then they would try to work on different ways and different options on how to neutralize the strong points and how to capitalize on the weak points. And whatever it may be, maybe he rolls a jab, so you would you throw a nothing jab to get him to jab back, your outside tilt and bang hand over the top, or maybe he's a tall guy, and when you squat down, he shoots uppercut instead of getting low. The uppercut was up too tall, so you would squat and fire your left hook and catch me when he drops his right uppercut. You know what I mean? You follow his right uppercut with your left hook and you nail him on the V and drop him. Or maybe you would throw a left hook up. You would throw like a right hand left hook, and he catches it, but he brings his elbows up too high and he gives you that space underneath. So you would throw a throwaway left hook, throwaway right hand, and whip that 45 right around the elbow, bang. And then if he buys into that, you do it again. He buys in that, then you do it, and instead of going around the elbow, you go inside, boom, into the solar plexus. You make it more of a shove. That thing that And then if we didn't have the luxury of a film,
what if you're in the ring?
Hold on. Hopefully, we would have enough rounds. I mean, if it's like a real quick.
If you're in the ring, he wants to hear it for if you're in the ring perspective as a fighter. In the ring with no previous knowledge, then take 2 rounds to figure it out. Oh, that's somebody else's comment. My bad. Billy, you frozen. My man Billy got frozen. I'm gonna send him a link again. I'm gonna send him a link again. I don't know what happened, but the internet was a little choppy. Yeah, guys, that's Billy Briscoe. For those of you guys who don't know, that's Billy Briscoe. I'm gonna bring him back in here. I don't know what's going on with the internet. I'm gonna bring him back in here. For Billy Briscoe built Gabriel Rosado, who just got a major knockout. Now, Gabriel Rosado's working with Freddie Roach now. Big shout out to Freddie Roach, Hall of Fame trainer. But Billy Briscoe had Gabriel Rosado for most of his career, and he built them, and he's been around some of the great teachers of boxing, and me and Billy have these great boxing conversations on a regular basis, and that's the reason I brought him back on. Okay, there he goes. He's back in here. Let's see what happens. Yo, Billy, what happened to you?
Oh man, something popped across the screen and it was blocking my view, so I tried to push it away, and then it shut me down. I'm not computer savvy. I'm old school, man. I go back to framing houses with hammer and nails. You know what I mean? So I apologize about that.
It's all good. It's all good.
But what I was saying, that if you didn't have the luxury of videotape, reconnaissance, intel, whatever you want to call it, if you didn't have the luxury, hopefully you would have at least a good solid 10 rounds in front of you. That way you could use the first round or two to feel him out. Maybe you throw a probing jab to see what his counter is. But by not having no weight on it, by you probing, you know that you're in position to catch, slip, roll, ride. You didn't overcommit to the shot, so he can't counter you. Well, maybe you throw throwaway shot, hook up top, and see how he reacts to the hook. Then maybe you throw shots, you feint him, and then you see how he reacts. You feint him if he commits a hard, you feint a jab, he commits a hard right hand. 9 times out of 10, his counter for that shot is going to be the right hand. Or you throw a jab, he catches a jab back. 9 times out of 10, his initial reaction 9 times out of 10 would be his primary reaction. So you would have to put that in the mind, in the database, and then you figure out, okay, does this guy got multi dimensions, or is he a one trick pony? You know what I mean? Does he have, goes back to questions and answers. How many answers did he have for my questions? And you figure that out, and then you can make your adjustments from there. To get into how you would do all that, that's going to take all day. We'll be here for 6 months, but you can figure out what I'm saying. There's 20 different counters to a jab. At least you could probably come up with more right now. There's 15 different jabs to right hand. And I'm just making these numbers up, but there's many different answers to the question. You have options. The great Bernard Hopkins told us years ago when we were kids. He said, the better man is the smarter man. It's not the stronger, the faster man. It's the smarter man, because he gives himself options, not only in boxing, but in life. that was great advice from one of my old heads.
Bernard Hopkins, man. What was it like watching Bernard Hopkins in the gym?
Oh, it was great. You know, Gabi boxed him every camp from the Joe Kawasaki camp all the way up. There was a few that he didn't do, but there was almost all of them. And it was funny because they didn't even know he wasn't southpaw until I told them. You know what I mean? Because I Gabi can box southpaw. I had him box the southpaw. I found out that he could box southpaw by accident. That's another story though. But yeah, it was great watching Bernard. You know, like Bernard was you know, he was taking Gabi, you know, and he was giving him, you know, giving him a lot of information. And the good thing that I liked that he was actually reaffirming that what I was giving him was the truth. Like I would show him something. He was like, I like that. You know what I mean? He would, you know, and then he would tell him the same thing basically, but in different words. But Gabi would get to see, like, look, I'm not making this stuff up, because some of the things I was showing him, he'd never seen it. So he must have thought deep in his head, like, yo, Bill here making shit up and got me doing it. It's working, but he making this shit up. And then he see Bernard do it to him. He's like, wait a minute, maybe Bill ain't making this stuff up. No, I'm not. Because the great Bernard Hopkins was trained by the great Mr. Bowie Fisher, but they also had my mentor, the late great Mr. Wesley Mozon, working with them too. So Mr. West worked with Bernard for a few fights too. You know?
Now, why do you think that is? Why is it that you think, like, you know, because I've had the same situation. You're working with a kid, you're giving him information, and it's almost like somebody else got to give him the same information for him to trust it. What is it that you think happens with some of these guys where they just don't trust the information, but at the same time, they still want you to be their trainer? It's like, you came to me to teach you, I'm teaching you, but now you're not trusting me. Like, what do you think that is? What do you think the mental block happens with some of these guys?
I don't know, but I don't know. It could be different things. I mean, with Gabi, he trusted me. He knew what I was showing him. But just he was like, he never seen nobody else do it. So like he was pulling off on guys in the gym, and it was working, obviously. But he was like, in his mind, I'm thinking he probably was like, yo, Bill making this stuff up, or Bill tried to show me some Wing Chun or something, jamming shots. Like, no, jamming shots goes back all the way back. Goes all the way back. You watch Jack Johnson do it. You watch a lot of guys jam shit. You don't see nobody do it no more. So now everybody thinks I'm making it up. You know what I mean? Or the flex, or you know, knocking a shot up, bang, you know, things like that. You know, that, oh, it's some kind of karate shit. No. This is boxing. This is old school pugilism. So you know, I guess, you know, when he seen Bernard doing it to him and doing it, you know, putting his little twist on it, I guess he realized. As far as guys do that, I really don't know. You know, I mean, it's probably a sense of insecurity. You know what I mean? They're probably insecure because they don't see other people doing it. You know what I mean?
You got my man right here. He said Bowie Fisher, Wesley Mozon. Those are some Hall of Fame trainers from Front Street Gym and Champs.
Absolutely. They were both extreme grandmasters of the craft. May they both rest in peace.
Right. Hey, Coach, do you think Canelo Alvarez could ever move up to the heavyweight division? I don't see that as a realistic thing. What do you think? What do you think, Billy?
Nah, man. He's 5'0". I mean, I'm surprised he made it to 175. You know,
right?
He's really a small guy. Didn't he start out career like 140? Didn't he make a pro debut in Mexico like 40, somewhere around there? I know he fought 47 for a while. Then he moved up, but that's a stretch. But then again, you had guys in the old days, like a guy like Sam Langford fought from lightweight all the way to heavyweight and was extremely successful. But no disrespect to Canelo, because I really like Canelo. He knows Sam Langford.
Do you think there's any heavyweights Canelo might be able to beat, like some of these lower echelon heavyweights? Is it possible?
Why not? No, I mean, who knows, man? Canelo's a special. He's a different breed, man. He's a different animal. And now I heard he wants to, after he fights Caleb Plant, if that fight could be made, he wants to fight that Austin.
That's a good fight. That's a good fight.
When I was in Canada, I watched that guy. That guy.
Caleb Plant's a nice little boxer.
Oh yeah, Caleb Plant can box. He could box. But I don't know if he's going to be able to keep Canelo honest enough and keep him up off him. You know what I mean? Because Canelo has a way of pressuring people. You know, he's very, he's probably the best pressure fighter in boxing right now. I would think so. You know, the way he closes off the ring. You know, he cuts the ring off. He applies pressure with his feet. You know what I mean? He's always got these guys under mental pressure. And he rips. And man, for some reason, his power came up and he's cracking.
Right.
You see what he did to Kovalev? He put him asleep. If the ropes wasn't there, he'd been on a commission table taking a nap. You know what I mean?
So what do you think? What do you think about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder right now, Billy. How do you see that fight?
I think Tyson Fury wins again. I think he's already in his head. Boxing's all mental. You know what I mean? I think that and then that little incident with the headphones, and he had Malik Scott speaking for him. Nah, man, I think you tilted your hand. You know what I mean? But you can't never fully count him out because he got to punch his chance. He's probably got the best single punch in boxing. Like that right hand of his is probably the single best punch pound for pound in boxing. Like he hits anybody with that flush, they go to sleep. You know what I mean?
Now, do you think that Tyson Fury might be a little overconfident? Do you think he might be sleeping on him and then he might mess around and walk into that right hand?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think, he's one thing you got to give Tyson Fury, one thing for sure and two things for certain. He's got a good boxing IQ. He understands boxing. He was blessed to be with Emmanuel Stewart for a while, behind closed doors and, shadow training and flying from England over there to work with him. So I think he fully understands boxing well, but, it only takes one shot, man. It only takes one mistake. Tyson might have to be perfect all night. Wilder only needs one shot,
Yeah, that's true. And how about Errol Spence and how about Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao?
But let me say this before I go on that though. But I really do think that Malik Scott is actually adding to Wilder's craft. Now people say, "Oh, how's a guy that you beat gonna add something to you?" Well, there's a lot of great teachers that know boxing. They're tremendous, but they wasn't great fighters. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a great fighter to be a great teacher. He understands. Malik understands boxing. I remember when he was a little kid in the JOs, and Fred Jenkins, Herc, you remember Herc from ABC. He was working with him. He was teaching him. Man, sure, the man knows boxing. Not a kid either, man. The man knows boxing. You know what I'm saying? And he's able to add elements to this guy game that maybe somebody else wasn't. So, hey, man, who knows? I hope. I mean, I like Malik Scott. I wish him the best. As far as Pacquiao, and this is a loaded question because Pacquiao's been out the ring for 2 years. He's 42 years old. The great Ray Arcel, that trained 23 world champions, 8 world champions, 8 weight classes, and 1 world champion each weight class. He said, "To rest is to rust." The great Sugar Ray Robinson said, "The key to this thing is activity." This man's been off for 2 years. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's been training on and off, but I mean, how much time does he have? He's a senator in the country, and I'm sure he's doing what he's supposed to do. But at the end of the day, his style is not one of them styles where like a George Foreman can take off 2 years and still just keep walking to you with the mummy style and crack you, knock you dead. You know what I mean? His style was, that he was always jumping in and out, and it involved a lot of speed, explosiveness, and timing. So, but I say that to say this: if the Manny Pacquiao, if he don't wake up old overnight or however that goes, and he's at least 90% of the Manny Pacquiao that fought Thurman, I think Pacquiao wins. If not, I think Spence pulls it off.
So wow, so you said even 90%. So we don't need 100% Manny Pacquiao to beat Errol Spence, is what you're saying?
No. Even if 90% of the Pacquiao that showed up for Thurman, I think he'll win. I don't know if he'll stop him, but I think he'll win down the stretch. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, how much do you think that car?
I was blessed. Freddie Roach is a good friend of mine. I was blessed that me and Gabi was out in camp with them one time, and back then, before they had in the wild card, they had a laundromat downstairs. And before Freddie bought the laundromat, had it renovated and turned that into his private gymnasium, they used to close down the gym upstairs. I forget what time it was, from maybe 1 to 4 or something like that. And they would train up there privately. And Freddie would allow, the only people that wasn't in Team Pacquiao that was allowed to train up there was me and Gabi. So we would be over there. We might have been, we're professionals. We go about our way. But we was able to watch. And I seen this guy do some amazing things, man. I seen him, I don't tell gym stories, but I seen him put some jobs on dudes that you'd be like, damn. And dudes that could fight. I'm not going to say no name because that wouldn't be appropriate. But I'm talking about he was putting jobs on dudes that could really fight. And it was almost like he was playing with them. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn. I know it's gym in a fight, shoot a thing, but this guy, he's one of them guys that can pull it off in the gym and pull it off in a fight. So yeah, he's a special breed,
Pacquiao special, man. There ain't no doubt about it. Pacquiao special. What's your thoughts on Errol Spence overall?
I like
as a fighter.
I like him. I like him. He's fundamentally sound. You know, he's a good fighter, good puncher. You know what I mean? Good punch selection. Uses his range real well. Doesn't punch. Doesn't initiate his punches from too close and give up his range. He you know, he's got a good ring IQ. He understands what he's doing, and he knows how to make adjustments. And he's got a good trainer. His trainer very good. Very good. He listens well. He makes adjustments. They got good chemistry. You know what I mean? I like him. I think he's
Where do
very good.
guys like Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, you know, these guys rank up to you in the history of boxing? You know what I mean? Because you got these guys, these new guys, you know, who are making a name for themselves. I know they still got more to prove, but how do you see those guys doing? I don't know. Let's just say in the De La Hoya era, Trinidad, those guys, or even before that, the Sugar Ray era, like, or even the Floyd Mayweather. Like, where do the, like, a Terrence Crawford match up with like Oscar De La Hoya to you, or you know, a Sugar Ray Leonard?
Wow, that's tough. I mean, I can't. You know, that's tough. Like, you know how, from being from the old school, you always appreciate the old timers, and you say these guys, here and this and that. But you're talking about guys like Sugar Ray Leonard that were 15-round fighters. These guys fought 15 rounds, and then you got to look back then. The Fabulous Four fought each other. Sugar Ray Leonard fought Duran. Duran fought Hearns. Hearns fought Sugar Ray twice. Marvin Hagler. These guys. Well, Marvin Hagler was bigger, but you know what I'm saying. But these guys, man, like even guys like Marlon Starling, they were. There's a funny story about Marlon Starling. I asked Freddie about 15 years ago who was the greatest defensive fighter he ever trained. We was in the wild card. He said, "You expect me to say James Toney, right?" I said, "Yeah, probably." He said, "No, Marlon Starling." I said, "Marlon Starling, all he ever did was just keep his hand up. That's why he was the best defensive fighter I ever trained." I said, "I got you." He said, "Guy keep his hand up, he get away from 70% of the punches just by being in the right defensive position." I said, "Absolutely." And guys like that, man, even guys like Donald Curry, Oba Carr, uh, those guys, man, they were special, man. You know what I mean? I really don't know where you would match these guys up with them. You know what I mean? Terrence Crawford versus De La Hoya in his prime. Prime for prime. If they fought 12-round bout, I'd have to go with De La Hoya. You know what I mean? He fought a lot of good guys. Maybe Bazooka Corte with a devastating jab. Maybe Terrence Crawford's. He's smart enough to get around that. I think he might be able to beat a Corte.
Corte was an interesting fighter. He was a very interesting fighter because he was able to stay in the game literally with his hands up in the jab. I didn't like how he threw a right hand, but his jab and his left hook was pretty good.
Yeah.
And his defense is very good. He was very similar to a Winky Wright. When him and Winky Wright fought, it was like a mirror match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except Winky was bigger.
Even guys like right. Yeah. But you go back to guys like Tommy Hearn, the guy like, man, these guys are punching people in other time zones. They hit you flush, it was a wrap,
Yeah. Tommy Hearns in this era, who beats him?
Good question. And then the other guys, like the other top guys, and like, no disrespect to Sean Porter. I like Sean Porter, but could you see Sean Porter fighting a Tommy Hearns for the welterweight championship of the world? You keep walking in the front door on Tommy Hearns, you're gonna run right into the shot. Great counter punches catching the way in. You know what I mean? Intensifies the shot. He's got a world-class chin, but we've seen him drop. So if these guys could drop him, Earl Spence dropped him. You have to assume that Tommy Hearns will put his lights out.
Right.
And then you got to remember he had the great Emmanuel Stewart with him. This guy could make adjustments. He knew Tommy Hearns better than he knew himself. You know what I mean? He knew Tommy better than Tommy knew himself. So he could make the adjustments. And he was a solid fundamentalist. He understood how to apply proper fundamentals and how to make adjustments on the fly. Not saying that his corner, they're not saying that Sean Porter's corner, anybody else couldn't. I'm just saying, you're talking about guys that were on the same wavelength. You know what I mean? Because no matter how great of a teacher you are, I am, whoever are, it's all in what you have on the stool. You could be the greatest jockey in the world. You're not going to win the Kentucky Derby if you ain't got the right horse underneath you. You know what I mean? It's all on the horse that you ride to an extent.
That's true. It's hard to find those guys, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So where do you
And then
see
you got guys that tell you, go ahead.
where do you see boxing going? Where do you see the future of boxing?
Hopefully it's bright. I mean, boxing's resilient. It'll survive. It's been around. Oh man, it's been around thousands of years. You know what I mean? Since the times of ancient Greeks. You know, when they fought with a cestus on their hand. You know what I mean? So it's been around. I mean, they always keep talking about boxing. This boxing. Boxing's evolved. It'll survive and it'll evolve. It'll go. You know, it'll find a way. You know what I mean? Like for years they thought, oh, MMA is going to do this. Okay, I respect them. I mean, I like it. It's fighting. Very, very good. But there's a place for that and there's a place for this. Boxing evolve. It'll survive somehow, some way. You know, it's not going to be as big because there's not as many fighters no more. You know, like I got friends of mine that are matchmakers, you know, and they're always on our Facebook talking about, I can't make fights if my life depended on it. That's because the talent pool for fighting is not there no more. You know what I mean? There's not, you know, in the 80s shit. Russell Peltz, man, he told me one time he could go to a gym in Philadelphia. He could go to your gym, right? And he'd make one side of the card. He'd come to my gym and make the other side of the card. You know what I mean? That's simple. Now there's just there's not a lot of fighters. Nobody wants to fight anymore.
Why do you
It's the
think
hard
that is? Why do you think we have less fighters than we did before?
because this is a hard way to make an easy buck, man. They got more options. You know what I mean? Soft time make soft people. Hard time make hard people. You know what I mean? Back then, times were hard. These guys had to find a way to support their family. You know what I mean? A lot of them had full-time jobs. That's why gyms in Philadelphia would open around 4 o'clock and close at 7:38 or a little later if they had to, because guys worked and got off at 5 o'clock and got to the gym. They would work a whole 9 to 5, come to the gym, train, and then go home. You know what I mean? It was like a second job to them. You know? Well, it
Right.
was the first job, and then it was their primary job, and then the day job was just to supplement them until they could get to where they were going. You know what I mean? Because they needed the money. Times was much harder back then. Guys wasn't making as much money. I mean, it was always boxing's always like, you know, it's the low end of the spectrum, the high end of the spectrum. Like you go on any card, like even on this Earl Spence Pacquiao card, on the top of the card, Pacquiao and Spence is probably going to make a couple $1,000,000, right? I don't know how much, but they're going to make a couple million. Then you're going to have a kid on the undercard in a 4-round bout, maybe making his pro debut, or you know, something like making 1,500, 1,000, which is a lot of money for a 4-round bout. But that's the you know, the spectrum. You got the lowest paid guy on the card and the highest paid guy. You know what I mean? The way
Right.
boxing is, man. You know, not a lot of money, and then there's not as many shows. So if there's not as many shows, and now the commissions, you know, the commission don't approve too many people anymore, and then you know, like there's not enough opponents to build the young guys neither, because you know you don't want to train opponents. I don't want to train opponents, but somebody has to train them. So that's why they got them down south guys. No disrespect to people down south, but they usually have them and they bring them along. You know what I mean? And then you get your guy a win, you get my guy a win, we get the next kid a win, and then that's how they build them up. Because if your kid's a national champion, my kid's a national champion, we're not gonna fight him in a pro debut. That makes absolutely no sense. You know, from a business standpoint, you got to build your guy up. You know, your fight is a product. You got to build that product up, make it marketable. You know, and then maybe your guy, and my guy will fight 25 fights down the line. You know, and then fight on Showtime for the big for the chip. You know what I mean? But if you put them guys in too tough too early, you screw them up. A lot of people fail to realize no matter how good of a teacher you are, you could be the greatest teacher on the planet. If you don't have the right business people behind you, your guy's not going to get there, because it's not the best fighter that becomes champion. It's the best move fighter. You know what I mean? The matchmaker's got to know how to move a guy. Okay, listen, this guy's not really ready for this guy yet. We'll go around him. We don't need him. But when they know, because styles make fights. You know what I mean? You want a guy to look good, you know, so you got to put the right kind of guy in front of him. Now, ultimately, when you develop them down the line, you'll ask for the right kind of styles. You know, like maybe you want to teach them how to fight southpaw, so you'll get the matchmaker to bring you 3 southpaws in a row, because that way you have 3 southpaw camps to build on. You know, build on the process and the science of beating southpaws, and then maybe after that you have 2 camps or 3 camps of pressure fighters. So now you're working and building on the science of how to outbox or how to, you know, handle a pressure fighter, and then maybe 3 fights after that you have, you know. 2 fights, you have a guy that they're not runners per se, but you know, boxer types where you have 2 camps back to back working on cutting off the ring, and you know the science of applying pressure and taking away the real estate. You know what I mean? Things like that. But they got to be the right guys though. And then the problem is there's not too many of them right guys anymore. So they wind up finding somebody. Oh, you're gonna fight this guy, and the prospect kid gets beat because it wasn't the right fight at the right time.
You
Timing is the
see it
essence
all
of
the
life,
time.
right?
You see it all the time. You see it all the time here in Philadelphia, man. They'll make these guys fight each other way too soon. You know what I mean?
Oh, you know what that's about, though. That nobody wants to put the money in. Like, you got to look at New York, right? New York, don't get me wrong. I like New York fighters. You know, a lot of good fighters from New York. Many good fighters from there. But a lot of them get enjoy the benefit of having that New York money behind them that builds them and gets them to that 25-0 before they have to fight the hard guys. You know what I mean? Here in Philadelphia, you're 8-0, you're 11-0, and I'm 8-0. They want us to fight on a local club show card, main event or co-main event for like what, $5,000 a piece. Come on, bro, you freaking serious? And then we have to sell tickets. Like, come on, bro, you serious? Like, let this marinate. Let him get up to, like, you know, where he's going. I get up there, and then we can meet, you know, on a Showtime level, make some money. But nobody wants to put money because it takes money to build fighters. You know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And guys don't want to, you know, it takes money to make money. But these guys, they'll sell you out for the short end money and go on to the next. And then after they sell you out for the short end money, now you're 11-1, right? They're gonna keep using you. You know what I mean? Putting you in against, you know, the wrong opposition, and now you wind up like 15-7. You know, you feel me? It's just it's not good, man. I love Philadelphia, but there's very few guys in the city that's really putting the money into these guys. You know what I mean? It's a shame.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I get those questions all the time in my live chats when I do them. Yo, why do you think this fighter's not fighting this fighter? Why isn't this fighter? Or why are they ducking each other? But they don't really understand that boxing is such a business that they don't even control that. That's the money behind them. That's the people behind them. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Fight anybody. A real fight like King Kong, Godzilla, and Loch Ness Monster all on the same night if you want them to. It's the people that doing a business for them supposed to be like, nah, we're gonna go around that, or they go right to it and get the money. You know what I mean? It's all, it's never it's almost never the best fighter to become champion. It's the best move fighter. There's guys that were better than some of these guys that's up there. They just wasn't move correctly, and they like, look, I use a prime example. You got Tevin Farmer, right? Get fucking tremendous fighter, bro. Defense is on a fucking bean. He's like the second coming of Parnell Whitaker, right? But when he didn't have the right people with him, he was 7-4. 7-4. They was just throwing him the King Kong Godzilla like that mountain. He was able to beat seven out of 11 killers, if my math is correct. So he was doing something right. You know what I mean? But then he got with Mark Ciparone, and Mark was able to bring in the right guys and clean up his lifestyle and his training situation with the right people and whatnot, and moved him on. Look, he became champion of the world. Right or wrong? So now let's say he would have had Mark from the beginning. He never would have had them losses. He'd have been undefeated when he got there. Right?
That's true. That's true.
It's all, that's the best example I can give. Because he could fight. He just needed to have that time to develop and develop and mature as a fighter, get his legs underneath him, so to speak, and develop his bag of tricks. And he did, and look what happened. You know what I mean? And I think he made like 6 or 7 title defenses. Right? If I'm correct.
Right.
The man, he was given the right opportunities, and look what. He wasn't given the right opportunity in the beginning, but he was given the right opportunity from a 7-4 perspective when he got there. So what if he was given the right opportunities from the begining? Shit, sky's the limit, right or wrong? Because you gotta assume.
What do you think is the biggest?
He left a little bit of himself in them 11 fights. Am I right?
What do you think is the biggest downfall for some of these inner city fighters that end up not making it? What do you think is the biggest downfall from what you've seen? Besides the business side, like I'm talking,
man.
Huh?
The streets are undefeated. You know what I mean? A lot of these kids fall victim to the streets. You know what I mean? And the streets, females, drugs. Sometimes, you know what I mean? They fall victim. And maybe what they needed was a manager that took them out and moved them somewhere, moved them away from the bad influences. You know what I mean? Because maybe they wasn't mentally strong enough to resist, to sustain. So you take them and you put them somewhere where there is no streets. There's females everywhere, but there is no streets. There is no females in your face. There is no drugs to be sold or used. You know what I mean? And you just make them focus on nothing but the task at hand. But people become victims of their environment, I guess. You know what I mean? They fall victim to the environment. Pressure, peer pressure. Peer pressure and bad management, female. There's a lot of different variables why fighters don't reach their full potential. But In Philadelphia, it's usually the streets, females, and bad management or bad promotion.
Yeah, it's
It's a
crazy because
shame.
Philadelphia got some talent,
We
man.
got, man, we probably got. I think we got like 48 world champions. That's pretty good. But we should have had 300. You know what I mean? But the problem was nobody wanted to put the money in. You know what I mean? Like, I asked Russell Peltz one time, good friend of mine, and I asked him. I was a kid, like I don't know. I think I just had a guy win a 6-rounder, and it might have been like 88, 89 at the Blue Horizon, 1988, 1989. And I asked him, I said, Russell, why do you put our guys in so tough? You Philadelphia guys in so tough with each other. He said, Billy, he said, as a matchmaker and a promoter, I won't make a fight that as a fight fan I wouldn't pay to see. I said, with that philosophy, we don't stand a snowball's chance in hell. You know what I mean? But that was his thing. He was making them kind of fights. So instead of giving me and you a chance to mature to to the heavyweight or to a championship level, you know what I mean? We'd have to fight on the Blue Horizon card. Maybe we get lucky and we get a USA Tuesday night fight main event or co-main. Wasn't much money, but that's about as lucky as we was going to get,
Right.
And then one of us win, then we go on to the next. But the problem was, how much did we take out of each other? Because you and I both know, you leave a little piece of yourself in the ring every fight. Maybe it's just a minute piece. Maybe it's a big chunk. Who knows? But you leave a little piece of yourself in there. Because it's never the chronological age of the fighter that ends his career. It's the amount of wars he's been in. You had a guy like Bernard fought till he's 52 because he'd never really been in no wars. He preserved himself. He knew how to defend himself. He knew how to get hit correctly. He knew how to roll high with shots. He knew how to take care of his body outside of the ring. He was disciplined to stay away from the female, the drugs, the bad food, the distractions and everything in between. That's why he was able to last that long. You got other guys like Manny Pacquiao, guys like that 42, because it's not necessarily the amount of years, chronicalized years you got on the third, it's the amount of wars you've been in. You got some guy that's 42 that's fresh, and you got some guy that's 26 that's shot.
Right.
And a lot of it also has to do with gym wars, because whether me and you were beating the hell out of each other with 8-ounce gloves on and nice hand wraps, or we're beating the hell out of each other with 16-ounce gloves and headgears, or punches, like the analogy Teddy Atlas gave us about 30 years ago. He said, there's like a brick wall over there, like right over there where I'm looking right now, and we take a sledgehammer and we hit it, we chip it, we boom, bang. Me and you hit on it for years and years and years. It chips, it cracks, it buckles. It might even buckle, but it doesn't go nowhere. Then a little kid comes along, leans on it, and ties a shoe, and the whole wall falls over. It's not that the kid leaned on it and tied a shoe to fall over. It's all the blows prior to weaken the structure to the point where you can lean on it and make it fall over. Like water on a rock, eat a hole right through you.
Now on the come up, do you think that some of that hard work actually benefits? And then you get to a certain point where now you have to chase down the hard work.
You gotta have some, of course. You gotta have some to build character. You know what I mean? You gotta have that character building sparring, so to speak. You do need some, but it can't be consistent. Like, when I was coming up, the old timers boxed their guys every day, bro. They would box their guys every day in camp. And if they was fighting on a Saturday, they'd box them to a Tuesday to a Tuesday. And then if they was boxing on a Friday, they boxed them. If they were fighting on Friday, they'd box them to the Monday of that week. You know what I mean? So, and I mean, it was, man, they was getting it in. Don't get it twisted. They was getting that shit in. Because I used to be like, damn. But that's how they did it, And then, some of the old timers, they believed in boxing the guy in shape. So when he got in camp, glove up. You know what I mean? And they would box the guys in shape. Because, running and sparring are the two best conditioners. Everything else is supplemental. If me and you had a guy and we couldn't do nothing but run him and spar him and put him on the table work, do his table work in his neck, we could get him ready for a fight. You know what I mean? Because everything else is supplemental. But too much hard sparring is not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. I asked my mentor one time. I said, Mr. West, because I was a kid at the time, and I just got done sparring. I had a headache. Like, this dude put a job on me. I'm not going to lie. This guy, he was a good fighter. He was a good professional. And he so I said, damn. I said, Mr. West, is good? Is light sparring good? He was like, yeah, Billy, it's very good. But where are you going to find it at? In Philadelphia. I said, yeah, I understand what you mean. And he said, let me tell you this story. So he told me a story. There was a guy, Sammy Goss. He trained out of Philadelphia, but he's from Trenton. Very good fighter. And he was fighting this Mexican guy from California. And he's from Mexico, but he moved up to California. He was living in California. And they came to the Joe Frazier gym because back then they had to come ahead of time, to make sure everything was there. The promoter bring them in ahead of time. So they gave me a little spot in the Joe Frazier gym. So that they bring them in. They think, yo, if you need sparring, you see this guy over there on the bag? He's like, yeah. He said, he fights more like Sammy Goss than Sammy Goss. You can use him. He'll give you as many rounds as you want. He's like, oh, no. Thank you. We got our own guys. We'll bring, they're coming in the morning playing. Said, okay, cool, no problem. But if you get stuck, we got you. Okay. So they came, and that's the first time they ever seen like the Mexican gear. They took the table, and they lay like all the gear out on the table. I stole that from them, to be honest with you, too. When you see me do it, I stole that from them. They put when West told me the story, I took that from them. They put all the gear on the table like that. And they came in, so they're sparring. They're like sparring, he's slipping, he's touching, and slip, rolling, touching, and they're touching each other, but they're not, they're not so hard. And everybody's like, oh shit. They said if he sparred, if he tried to fight Sammy like that, the way he sparred, Sammy gonna kill him. And everybody like, damn. Thing was, when a fight came that night, he did the same thing he was doing sparring, put steam on, and destroyed Sammy Goss. You know what I mean? Did the same thing, just put steam on and destroyed him. You know what I mean? Because he saved it for where it counted. He didn't leave it in the gym where it doesn't mean anything. He did just enough to keep the eyes sharp. Because if you and me are boxing and you outside slip my right hand, you touch me with a 45 to the liver, you can do the same thing with steam on it and kill me, but why? You already approved it. Bing, your timing right where you want it. Bing. Well, if I full jab, you outside slip me, you follow home with the right hand, you touch me. That's cool. You ain't had to stick your right hand through my head. You know what I mean? You already know it's there. You know what I mean? You saved it for where it counted. These guys don't do it.
But there's a science.
The gym don't mean nothing. There's a science to this. It's art and science of bringing a fighter to long. You train a fighter to a peak, not a plateau. It's like a pyramid. It's like a pyramid. Once you get to that top, that's it. You go down the other side, you're done. You gotta, there's a very fine line between being in tip-top shape and being burnt out. It's like walking a tightrope. If you were anything, you want to fall off on the side of being a little less trained than overtrained. A little bit. Once you overtrain, you're burnt out. You're done. You're fried. You're no more good. But if you fall off the other side, you'll be okay. Plus, look at the injuries. How much injuries you and I both seen guys get in training camp from sparring, going balls to the wall, guns blazing. You know what I mean? Hurt their hand, hurt their elbow, get their ribs. Some of them got concussed and don't even know it. They're walking. You watch it. You walk back with. You watch the kid after he gets out, like Gabi boxed this guy one time, and I watched the kid get out the ring and he's walking. I said, I told his trainer, you better go make sure he's concussed. Nah, he's all right. I seen the way he was walking. He sat down and fell over like boom. You know what I mean? I told you, man. You feel me?
Right.
It's like you don't want to see that stuff. I think guys knocked dead in the gym. I think guys get their ribs broke, jaw broke, nose broke, vicious cuts. You know what I mean? I was just in the gym the other day. These two kids were sparring. And the one kid shut the other kid's eye. I had to he didn't shut. He gave him a nice mouse. So I took the end swell that I keep in the gym and I kept his eye open for him. I'm like, damn, these are young kids. They're like, I don't know, 16, 17. You know what I mean? They wasn't my guys, but I'm like, damn. Crazy,
What got you into working the cuts? Because I know for a long time you was a head trainer for fighters, but then out of nowhere I seen you more and more working cuts, more so than working with fighters in the gym. What got you into it, and how did you learn how to work?
I've been working the cuts for 30 years. I only work with certain people. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not, truth be told, I'm the longest reigning cut man in Philadelphia that's still alive. You know what I mean? I don't say that because I don't want to offend anybody, but it's true. You know what I mean? And they taught me how to do it. I asked my mentor one time, I said, Mr. West, you teach me how to work the cuts? He's like, yeah, I got you. So he would show me, the different coagulants, the vascular constrictants, the end swells, the different protocols, the way to wrap the hand, all them things, you know what I mean? And I would use I always had but West used to always tell me, he said, when you're a chief second, always bring a cut man. Don't put that undue burden on yourself. You know what I mean? So I would always do that. I would have that. If I was working chief second, I would either bring Mr. Willie Folks, may rest in peace, which was a good friend of mine, and he showed me some stuff with the cuts too. He took me to the side, taught me some things. And
now, how did you learn how to work the cuts? Because look, like for instance, if I was to learn how to work the cuts, I would be very nervous doing it in real time. So how did you learn how to work the cuts?
You know how they taught me how to do it, right? You know how they taught me how to do it? They put me with the opponents. The guy that would come to the Blue Horizon, guys that didn't, you're going to work with them. So I would work with them. I had to earn my stripes on that side, you know what I mean? and the guys would get cut, and they would try to get out. And bro, I'd stop this shit. And got one guy got a nose, I stopped the bleeding. He's trying to blood. He's like, motherfucker. I said, oh, that's whole pass. You want to quit? That's on you. But you're not gonna say that you got stopped on this nosebleed and tarnish my reputation. You want to quit? Go out there and quit, but you ain't stopping. I stopped that nosebleed. You know what I'm saying? So I learned because you got to do it like anything else. That's experience. You know what I'm saying? You got to get the skills and the knowledge, and then you have to apply it. You know what I mean? You got to own it. Same thing we talk about guys got shots and they can't pull it off in the fight. They don't own it. You got to get it until you own it. You know what I mean? I worked in fights for years, man, all over the place.
How long do you think it took you to learn how to work the cuts?
What, as far as like the knowledge or to the point where
as far as where you felt where you felt confident enough to work the cuts on your own with a top guy, you know, with your guy or whatever?
Not too long, a few years.
Okay. So it takes years. It takes years though to learn how to work the cuts at that level where you feel confident.
Yeah, I mean anybody could get a bottle of adrenaline and some swab and call themselves a cut man, but to be really comfortable knowing that you dealt with pretty much every facial injury that you're gonna come across in boxing, it's gonna take you a few years. And in them few years, I worked a lot of fights. Because you know, at the Blue Horizon, you remember the Blue Horizon, they were like 8, 9, 10 shows a year. You know what I mean? Sometimes more. And then we'd have done the Spectrum. I work cuts in the Spectrum. I work cuts all over the place. You know what I mean? And then that's how we in Atlantic City. Oh, and then when I would take my guys away to fight, I would take them. I was in that situation. I had to be the chief second and the cut man. You know what I mean? I would work them. But I was blessed, you know. My mentor, late great Mr. Wesley Mozart, my guy, still taught me the cuts, and then, you know, Mr. Willie Folks, may rest in peace, taught me some good stuff too. And then a guy he was called Fireman Stan. Stan, he was a good guy. He was a Vietnam vet. He was like a combat medic, and he had a little bit of PTSD, but he knew his shit. He taught me a lot. And then when I was up in New York, with Mr. Al Gavin would help me out a lot. And then when he would come, we would cross paths like in North Jersey or in Atlantic City or in Philadelphia. He would always, you know, share knowledge with me. You know what I mean? Great guy, man. All them guys were great. May they rest in peace.
Yo, Billy, you breaking up.
I said all them guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you. You broke up, so I didn't hear a lot of what you just said.
I said, well, you know, and a lot of times I would go up to like North Jersey or New York, Connecticut, you know, Massachusetts, and I would run into like one of my other mentors, Mr. Al Gavin, may he rest in peace, from New York, and he would show me some things. He would teach me something, and then we've been down in Blue Horizon in the locker room. We'd be talking. He'd be teaching me some stuff. You know what I mean? Even though one time we was working against each other, and you know, we was talking, you know, about the cuts. You know, it was professional. Strictly, he would show me some things. And, you know, he was a great guy. All the guys that helped me. My mentor, the great Mr. Wesley Mozart, my guy with the soul, Willie Folks, Stan the Cut Man, Al Gavin, you know, Jim Strickland, may rest in peace. You know, I took the Visine bottle trick that I got that from him. He was a great guy out in Chicago. When I used to go out there to work the fights, I was out there like 4 or 5 times a year at least. And he always helped me out as well. May rest in peace. They're all gone.
Somebody asked, Born Swerve asked, do you still work with Sammy Vargas?
No, I haven't worked with Sam in about 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Good guy. I wish him the best.
How was it working with Sammy? I remember when you was working with Sammy. How was that?
Sammy's a good guy, man. He was very limited, you know what I mean? Because he only had a few amateur fights, and you know, in the Canadian system up there, it's not like it is down here. But he's got all the guts in the world, real ballsy guy. Like he'll fight King Kong, no problem. Whatever you ask him to do, he'll do it. And he good guy, very good guy.
Who was the hardest worker you ever worked with, as far as work ethic?
The hardest guy I ever worked with.
Like somebody who's just willing to put in the hours, man. And you'd be like, God damn, this guy's really, really willing to put in the work.
There was a few. Damn, somebody just let off an AK. You heard that shit? It was probably about 6, 7 blocks away. You heard that shit? Ta, 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 ta. You can hear the distinctive popping sound of the 7.62 by 39 rounds. Good question. Well, Gabi was definitely a tremendously hard worker. He was he was one of the guys that had a trick. And people say, well, what do you mean trick? See, sometimes the trainer had to trick a fighter into doing more than he wants to do without letting him know he's doing it. Sometimes he got to trick a fighter into doing less than he wants to do. I had to use to trick him to do less, Like you tell him, look, man, I want 7 rounds on the bag. I need some good hard rounds. And then after like the 5th round, you tell him, all right, man, that's enough. No, come on, Bill, let me just do one more. Oh, man. All right, get you one more. But try not to kill it. And then he give you that one more. You really only wanted 6 in the first place, but you couldn't let him know that. You know what I mean? Things like that, you know what I mean? The psychological edge, you got to wear a lot of different hats in this business. He was good. My son, that motherfucker trains like a madman, you know what I mean? He trains like he really trains. And then who else? My brother-in-law Chucky T, he didn't train the way I want him to train, but when I could get him in the zone, he give me like when we fought Paul Spatter 4. That was a good fight. Non-title bout. He trained pretty good. Lazy fighters to me, we I think we're allergic to each other because I don't get along with them and they don't get along with me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not gonna waste my time with a lazy guy.
Do you feel like the trainer should be waking these guys up, making them run, do all these things, or these just character traits that the fighter has to have on his own? When you know what I mean? Fighters should have them.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to hold a grown man's hand and babysit him. You know what I mean?
How about hitting the heavy bag? How about hitting the heavy bag? Do you feel the trainer should be sitting there watching them hit the heavy bag, or do you think that that's something that they should develop on their own?
I believe that. I believe he should be watching, just not on the sense of making him work, because he should always have that in him. I believe you should be watching so you can correct the mistakes, because mistakes have to be corrected early, because habits are formed in the gym, good habits and bad habits. You want to correct the mistake before it becomes a habit. If it's bad, obviously one mistake is bad. So you want to correct the mistake before it becomes a bad habit. You know what I mean? And then you want to, all right, look, you're rolling the jab, your chin's a little high, a little too square. When you find the right hand, you're not bringing it all the way back. You're squaring up. You're going to counter with the right hand. Or, when you throw the right hand, your chin's up a little bit. Keep it tucked. Or, whatever. You're not pivoting through with the right foot. Or you're not bending the knees in it. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? And, you got to correct them, because habits are formed in the gym, and you don't want bad habits when it could be corrected. And it goes back to drilling them, making them do it right so much you couldn't do wrong with 1 or 2. So pretty much all boiled back down to that.
So how many times a week would you say a trainer needs to sit there with a fighter? What if you got multiple fighters? What if you're working with a guy while he's sparring, and you got your other guy and he's not sparring that day and he has to hit the bag on his own? How many times a week would you have to say, listen, man, a trainer should this be something that's done daily?
Well, I usually only train one fight at a time. I took that from my mentor, Mr. Wesley Mozart. So he would train one fight at a time. You know what I'm saying? Because that way, you got to give it the full attention. But if you were stuck in a situation where training more than one fighter, then obviously, you would try to do it as much as possible. If you could get 2 or 3 times a week, then that would be great. You know what I mean? But you would have to do it at least 2 or 3 times, because you have to keep encouraging him or reminding him, or however you want to put it. You would have to keep planting that seed in his mind, that bug. All right, listen, man, you're rolling the jab. You know what I mean? You're too square. You're not pivoting with the right hand. Whatever it is, you know what I mean? Your head's sticking up too high. You're not rolling under. Whatever it is, you know what I mean? And you keep reinforcing it.
My man Lee Baxter, my man Born Swerve seems to know a lot about you, Billy. Would you ever work with Lee Baxter again?
Yeah, Lee's my friend, a good friend of mine. I like Lee.
Enlighten me. Who's Lee Baxter, Billy? Because I'm not familiar.
He's a promoter out of he's Sammy Vargas' promoter out of Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very good people. Very good people.
Okay. Oh, so Sammy Vargas was from Canada.
Yeah. Well, he's originally from Colombia, but yeah, he's in Toronto, or Mississauga, the GTA, the Greater Toronto area. It's a very nice place up there.
A lot of fighters up there, right? That whole kind of Canadian scene, the Montreal, Toronto. There's a lot of boxers.
No, there's not that many. There's not that many in Toronto, but there's a lot in Montreal. Montreal is more the fight capital of Canada.
How do you feel about those guys up there? How they box?
Well, Lee Baxter actually he actually started. What's the word I'm looking for here? He gave rebirth to professional boxing in Toronto and the GTA because there wasn't really anybody doing anything, and he started promoting, and now he's done all kind of. He co-promoted with Floyd Mayweather on a few fights, Al Heyman. He's done a lot. And he's doing a lot. But as far as like boxing, Montreal is the real fight town of Canada. They got some very good fighters up there. Most of them are all implants, transplants, if you will. They're from different countries, like France, Haiti, Romania, Russia, Italy, wherever. You know what I'm saying? They all come over there. And there's not many native-born fighters.
So it's like a melting pot. It's like a melting pot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
There has been a few
I've
good
been
ones.
there. I never been to Canada. I never been to Canada.
Oh, you should go. It's beautiful. Expensive as hell. Beautiful.
I hear that.
Cold.
Oh, you said it's expensive?
Oh my God, it's expensive. You know what I mean?
Really?
Absolutely. I think Toronto is more expensive than LA.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Damn.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Man, that's
I think
crazy.
they're still on lockdown too. Could be mistaken, but I think they're still on COVID lockdown.
Yeah, they've been dealing with that lockdown quite a long time, man. I'm surprised how long they've been keeping them on lockdown.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city, though. Beautiful city.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Billy, man. We've been on here for an hour and 26 minutes, man. We're gonna chop it, but I'm glad I had you on here, man. Very educational for a lot of these guys. Some of these guys are gonna have to go back and rewind and listen to some of the stuff you're saying, though. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of guys, they need double and triple takes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where can I watch this podcast thing at?
I'll send you the link. You know what I mean? If anybody got any questions they want to ask Billy Briscoe, now's the time. I'll keep it on for a couple more minutes. Now's the time to ask any questions, any boxing specific questions, man. Billy's a boxing encyclopedia. So if you guys want to know anything, now's the time to ask. I'll stay on here for a couple more minutes, Billy, to hear some more of your, expertise, man. You know what I mean? But they don't know our conversations. But we've been on the phone 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, man, talking boxing.
Sometimes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy how every time we talk boxing, it's like we can just keep going and going and going and going. So you know what I mean? It's very fun. It's very.
Like I'm very I talk boxing with anymore.
I'm very honored that I could say I could call a guy like you and talk to you. You know what I'm saying about boxing? To be honest, 'cause I don't talk about boxing with anybody. You're the only one. Me and Eddie Chambers too, of course. But Eddie, me and Eddie are like. But besides Eddie, you're the only other one.
Thank you. How's Eddie doing?
Eddie's good, man. He's just cooling out. He's doing a detox right now.
I think we gotta trick him into coming to the gym and lock the gym door, keep him in there, and just keep training his ass to get him in shape. That's what I think, man.
Tell me tell the people about Eddie Chambers, man, because you're from Philadelphia. You watch Eddie Chambers train in Philadelphia. Let me see something, bro. You've seen Eddie in Philly for years, and I've been to James Schuler's.
I've seen him since Don Elbaum brought him out from Pittsburgh, at the beginning of his professional career.
And what's your thoughts on Eddie Chambers?
Eddie could fight his ass off. I mean, Eddie was like, man, Eddie was a crafty dude, bro. I mean, he could fight. He had a boxing IQ. They called him Fast Eddie. He had nice, snappy punches. He work off the winky. He could work off the shoulder. He could, he could box. He was good, man. He wasn't a big puncher, but boy, could he put a job on you. He was like cut from that Chris Bird mold. Like he could really put a job on you. He was right. And then he was with his father, a good guy. I like his father, real good guy. Then he was with Abdul Basir. Man, that guy could really fight, bro. He could fight. I think there are a lot of guys he can come back and beat right now. To be honest with you, I'm certain there's guys. He's been off like 5-6 years. I'm sure he could shake off the rust with two give me type wins, and then I'm sure he could go right back and get it because he's preserved. Like we talk about, he ain't been in too many wars. You know what I mean? He ain't been in, man. His defense was solid. He probably didn't get hit flush very much at all. I mean, other than the Klitschko knockout, but I mean he's well recovered from that. There was a guy one time, Bob Montgomery, from here in Philadelphia, and he was about to defend his lightweight championship of the world. Right, a week before his championship fight, the fight fell out for the welterweight champion, Albomi Davis. And they were like, "Look, we want you to fight him." I'm like, "Nah, you're crazy." Albomi Davis knocked. He was Brownville's Brooklyn first world champion, and he was welterweight. He's a big guy. He was knocking everybody dead. They was, "Nah, man, we don't fight that guy. It makes no sense." He was like, "Listen," he said, "I don't care. Whatever happened in the fight," the promoter told him, "Whatever happened in the fight, you're still gonna fight next week and fight for the title. Wasn't defending the title. I'm sorry. Fight for the world title." He said, "All right, okay, whatever you say." He went there and wound up getting knocked dead in the first round. Boom. Bob Montgomery got knocked dead. Next week, 15 rounds, won the lightweight championship of the world. And people can check this if they think I'm lying. So, he's well recovered, man. Plenty of guys got knocked unconscious and they came back. Plenty of guys. Look at Manny Pacquiao. I mean, Marquez had him out like a light. He's fine. So it's not like there's no damage. He's fine. You know, if we could find that hunger, if we could find we could go find one of these hungry guys, right, and take like a needle and tell them, "Hey, look up there. Is that a spaceship?" And they look up, we stick them and we pull some of that enthusiasm and hunger out of them, and then they said, "What happened? There's mosquitoes in here. Don't worry, you'll be okay." And then we take the needle and we go see Eddie. He was like, "Oh, Eddie, look, there's a spaceship in the sky." He looked at me, stick him with the needle. All of a sudden, he's like, you know what? I didn't see no spaceship, but I'm gonna go get my stuff. I want to go to the gym. We got it made then. And then if we could stick him, why like maybe you stick him with the one needle and pull him out the other one. You stick the needle of the enthusiasm and take his skill set. And then we find some of these kids that got all the enthusiasm, can't fight so good. And we stick them with that. Man, he'd be pumping out a champion like Apple pumps out iPhones. Many different colors, sizes, and models. You know what I mean?
Yo, Billy.
Yeah.
My man Sam wants to know, how can he improve on trading punches?
Improve on trading punches?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. You know what I mean? I would have to look at your style and I would have to see what you're doing. But, as far as trading punches goes, I mean, I'm not a gigantic fan on trading punches. I'm more of a fan of getting your shots off and then getting around and getting your shots off again. Like, you know what I mean? And unless you're talking about maybe catching counter, like you throw a left hook, the guy throw the hook back, so then you catch it, but you make a short pivot, you rip a 45 to the gut. You know what I mean? Something like that. But as far as like in there just trading, the better man is the smarter man. Smarter man give himself options. I wouldn't get in the habit of trading with guys if I could develop a better delivery system. You know what I mean? Because you're taking a chance of getting nailed. And if you could develop a way to punch in between the shots, you wouldn't have to trade with guys. You know what I mean? Like you throw a left hook, and he's going to throw the left hook back. So you throw the left hook, but you don't put nothing on it, and you push him a little bit as you slide over, and as you slide over, you should straight right hand, boom, because a straight shot beats a hook 9 out of 10 times. Bing, bang, and you nail him. You beat him to the punch. You know what I mean? Something along those lines. What do you think, Coach?
No, absolutely, man. I'm not gonna ever tell a guy to trade punches. You know what I mean? There's gonna be a time where maybe we take chances, but we don't want to put our guys in harm's way. You know what I mean? So trading punches is not something that's recommended. It happens in boxing, especially when the heat of the moment happens, and some of those things have to happen. But the art and science of boxing is hit and not get hit. You know what I mean? So we want to get our shots off, either roll under or we want to get in and get out. That's really the key.
Put ourselves in a position now to have to trade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times guys, think that, it's about, just going in there and throwing punches, man, and that's what excites the fans. But at the end of the day, it's the art and science of boxing is hit and not get hit.
Absolutely. It's all about putting yourself in a better position. You know what I'm saying?
What do you think about guys who maybe frown upon like a Philly shell style or shoulder roll, or keeping the lead hand low? A lot of guys don't like it. A lot of guys feel that you need to fight with both hands up. What's your thoughts and opinions, especially coming from Philadelphia, where that's something that's very, very common, and especially back in the day, commonly taught by the teachers? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a look. I think you should have multiple looks. You know what I mean? You got to have that style. You got to have the winky where you keep the hands high. Maybe have a joint we call open palms, which is a similar but slightly different version. Maybe you can use a cross arm defense. There's different things. Maybe you stick your arm out a little wider than your fence with it. You got to have different looks because you don't want to have the same look round after round after round. Then you become predictable, and the guy will be able to figure you out. You want to show him something. So show him something, give him something else. You have different looks. So you can find whatever look it is that you need to accomplish whatever it is you might be wanting to do. Like if you want to keep him out at long range, and then you might have to use one look. If you want to get in the pocket and close the distance and start ripping, then you might have another look. If you want to fight maybe mid range, a tight circle, and just work off counters, boom, follow shots home, then you might need another look. You know what I'm saying? But you gotta have different looks. But they all work if you train them correctly, and they're all important to have. You don't want to be a one-trick pony. One trick, one-dimensional fighter don't make it very far in this line of work. You gotta have options.
Yeah, you gotta have options. I
Would you
tell
agree?
people that all the time, man. I tell people that all the
Gotta
time,
have.
man. I tell people all the time, man. Just because you learned the Philly shell, or just because you learned your hands up, you know what I mean? It's all tools, man. We just want to add as many tools to the toolbox as possible.
Absolutely. The more weapons in the arsenal, the better you are. You know. Now, of course, they're gonna have one style that's gonna be their main style that they work out of. You know what I mean? But they have to have different looks to make the adjustments because at the end of the day, everybody trains. Everybody plans to fight their plan, but the one that can make the adjustments 9 times out of 10 is going to be the winner. You know.
Right, right. That's a fact. And
You know.
hold on. Let me see here. Somebody else had a question. What's the cross guard? What's the cross guard? Could you give a quick demonstration of what the cross guard is, Billy?
Well, the cross guard is basically. No, I can't because the way I'm at here in the bed. But if you want to look at Archie Moore, what it is you take both of your hands and instead of them being vertically on the side of your body, they're horizontal in front of your face. You know what I'm saying? Show it for me, and please. You're in a better
Nah.
position.
So
Archie.
instead of this, we're more here. We're more
Yeah.
here. We're
Right.
more
Exactly.
here. Now,
But you
let
want to
me
put
ask
you
you,
want to
Billy,
put the right over top.
you don't see this anymore. You see a lot of the old timers do it. Do you think there's a reason that guys aren't doing this? Do you think that maybe it's not that effective? Would you still teach it, and when would you use it?
Well, I think now that the game has evolved, you know what I mean. To be honest with you, and I think that it wouldn't be as effective as it would have been in that time frame, but it's still effective if used in the proper spots. Now, maybe use it to suck a guy in. Like, okay, for example, I had Joey DeWego do it one time, and he dropped a guy in the gym, ugly. We didn't want to. It was the dead weight shot, and you and I both know them dead weight shots are like getting hit with a wrecking ball. So he was in the shell position. He caught the jab, and then the guy slid back. So he showed it to him, and the guy went to throw a right hand. And when you put your hand up like this, what do you expect? Like the straight right hand to the top and a 45 around the side, right? So we expected that. But what the problem was, the boy dropped his hand. I noticed that he did it, so we asked him to pull it off. The boy dropped his hand. He wasn't on the phone too good when he froze the hook. So Joe, boom, caught that shit. And when the boy ripped to the body, bang, Joe hit him with it, and that's all she wrote. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you know what I like about
It's a
what I
trap.
like.
All it is a trap. You're sucking a guy in. It's a trap. You know what I mean? And then some
Yeah,
people say, well,
because
what
it's not
about you here
hard.
and you
It's
here?
not hard. It's not hard.
And you can rip the shot to the body. It's
It's
not.
not hard to transition from, let's just say, a Philly shell to a quick cross arm.
No, exactly.
So we
Exactly.
can usually
And then
boom,
they
boom,
say,
boom, boom, boom. We can
absolutely.
actually add all those
Absolutely.
things in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then
So
I guess
instead of
the people always say,
walking around like this the
no,
whole
no, no,
round,
no, I
we
won't walk
just
around
use
with
it
it
in
now.
spot, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Just use it for a trap. I won't walk to a guy like that. Unless I got George Foreman or Ken Norton. Then maybe I would think about it. But and then like a lot of people say, well, what about the hook to the body from that position? Well, that's where the glove from the left hand slides over. You know what I mean? When I worked with Burt Cooper, Burt, may rest in peace, good guy, man. I worked with Burt. He was able to pull that off very successfully. You know what I mean? Yeah. Me and Bert were 2 and 1 together.
Right.
Gotta,
and when you said the glove and when you said the glove from the left hand slides over, that's more or less. I'm trying to see if I get a good camera angle here, but that's more or less that this hand transferring over here.
Yeah, your left hand goes right against, lays on the liver with the
right.
glove.
Right. So it's literally going where this elbow would be. The left glove is now going.
And then the right elbow comes up high as you tuck in to pick off the hook, which is
right.
The dirty move. Right. They claim
the
the dirty move
at the end of the day. The left hook is landing here, basically, if we have to.
Yeah, exactly. Archie Moore had that. Archie Moore, Joe Frazier, Bert Cooper. There was a white guy. I can't remember the white guy's name. He used to do it the opposite way. Instead of having the right hand over, he would have the left hand over, and he would loop like overhand rights. What's his name? He was from Utah, middleweight. Sugar Ray Robinson knocked him out. Gene Fullmer did it too. He was middleweight champion as well. Gene Fullmer knocked him out. Sugar Ray Robinson knocked him out with a left hook backing up. Good shot.
Right.
It's just a different look. It's just something to work out of. You know who was really good with it from Philadelphia? My man, I almost forgot. Thank God I didn't forget. Terrible Tim Witherspoon, 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. Because his mentor, Mr. Slim Jim Roberts, who I've seen teach that style to a lot of people, he's very good with that style. He's very good with that.
Big Tim.
He also, his son was good with it too.
The right glove to catch almost every shot. He was big. I worked with him one time. Yeah. You know, when I lived in West Palm Beach, I worked with him. He came down to West Palm Beach, and that's when I was still boxing. He was actually training Kasim Uma at the time, and he was showing me about catching everything with the right glove.
But that's what we do. You know, we got that from Mr. West. Mr. West catches everything with the catching man in front of the face. You know, he was big on that too. All the old timers were big on that because it protects the center line. It goes back to the science of boxing. When my lead foot is between your lead foot between mine, the head is centered on the line. Now we'll take the head off line and slip and roll and bob and weave, all that great stuff. But when your head is on line, my head's on line, target ought to be center. Just protect the center line. Takes it right away, like a windshield wiper. Wop, wop, wop. You know? But that defense isn't taught too much anymore. There's very few people that really teach it. You know? Most people will catch a jab, and that's about it. They don't know about catching jab, catching right hand, catching a hook, catching overhand right, catching a 45, catching an uppercut coming up the middle. But if you carry your hand in this position while you're jabbing, it's going to be very hard to counter because if a guy goes over top, boom, you catch a guy, comes beneath the jab, boom, you catch a guy, come back to the hook, get on the phone, boom, come back to the right hand, boom. You know what I mean?
All right. It's a whole nother game.
The whole nother ball game, man. Once you get that down pat, man, murder it. It's highly effective. Because you can't slip everything, you can't roll anything, you can't shoulder ride everything, you can't step away from everything. But if you use an integrated system of defense, you can. You catch one, slip one, roll one, slide, rock back, step around, jam one, tie guy up. There's a lot of different elements. Shoulder bumping, rip the uppercut, tilt under, spinning. There's a lot of things you can do. Am I right?
Absolutely.
And
I think that's the biggest thing that people forget about the Philly shell is that the Philly shell or shoulder roll, whatever you want to call it, right. We're not just thinking about shoulder riding punches or catching punches. We're also thinking about tilting under punches and rolling under punches. That's a big part of the system. So, a guy
using all three elements of defense.
Exactly. Like this is actually, we're incorporating a lot more. As opposed to just looking to shoulder roll everything, every shot, or block the hook every shot. We're looking to add all of the elements of defense.
Absolutely. You got to,
And that's why a lot of people
sets up your offense. Yeah, but it's not only a defensive system, it's also an offensive system. Like if you catch the jab and then you go to, you catch the first jab and then you tilt the second jab and he steps in. Especially if you catch the jab and you slide back slightly, because by sliding back slightly, it does two things. It makes him reach you with the second jab, and it keeps you out of range for him to try to hook off the jab. So you take that short slide back. He goes to throw it, then you tilt. Boom, you walked right into the right hand. He didn't realize what you're doing. You did. He didn't. You know what I mean? You sucked him into your trap. You got to set more traps than pest control. You know what I mean? Or you got your hand dangling. You get to catch him and you throw an up jab. You expect the right hand. So when you throw the right hand, you curl with it, deflect it with the shoulder, and shoot the shovel back underneath. You know what I mean? Or the straight right hand, depending on the distance, or if you're in whatever distance you're in, it depends on your personality, whether you want a better body puncher or head puncher. Usually, if they ask me, I say good fighter go to the body early and go to the head late if it lasts that long. But good fighters break the body down early. Throw a couple good shovels underneath. Maybe all she wrote. Like
Or
sticking
good,
a needle. It's like sticking
that good jab to the body, aka the needle, right?
absolutely.
Like think about Floyd
Yeah, the
Mayweather.
Floyd
Mayweather was his fights
right in there. Wow. It's the best. It's like sticking a needle. We call it the needle because like sticking it in a balloon. The first one might not take out the air. The second one might not take it out. The third might not. But after about 8, 9, or 10, that shit's semi-deflated. Am I right?
Absolutely.
A jab to the body is really a hard body shot disguised as a jab from long range. In the grand scheme of things.
Think about and it gets guys to drop their hand after a while, feeling that jab right there, that area right there. You're like, whoa, I don't want to feel that no more.
Shit.
Which
You've been hit there before. It takes 2 rounds sometimes to shake off that feeling. Sometimes you get hit with that, it makes 1 or 2 rounds to shake off that feeling. Then now you bang. If a guy hurt you to the body with like a good shot, maybe a 45, a right hand or something, he could still keep you tender underneath by just keep touching you with that jab. Pop. Because once you got that good burning shot from the gut, he's boom. He keep you sickening. He's gonna keep you tender. He's not gonna let you recover. He's gonna keep you tender underneath.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like shit. Like the shotgun jab to the body is ridiculous. Nobody uses it anymore. The last guy I seen do it was Kovalev. That's why I named that shot after him. He stepped with the jab. He folds enough the right hand up top, but he brings it up further than he normally would, so he can dig that toes of his back foot into the canvas, and then he sticks that jab to the gut. Boom! It goes right through you like a straight left hand. You know what I mean? Vicious. Good shit. The 2 throwaway shots up top are just to put himself in position, and then the one downstairs is the money shot.
Big shout out to my cousin right here. Big shout out to my cousin Peter Nieves, man. He was a great fighter from New York City. Won the Golden Gloves a bunch of times. Billy, are you familiar with Peter Nieves?
I might have met him a few times. I'm not too good with names. I'm more of a face guy, and I can't see his face because these glasses are Coke bottles.
Yeah, he's been around. Big shout out to him, man. But yeah, Billy. Yeah, man. There's so much strategies, man. When it comes to boxing, man, there's so many strategies, man. And a lot of guys don't think this deep into it, man. They just think that what I mean is about landing shots, but this is a real sport, man. You really have to strategize.
It's a chess, man. It's a chess game. You got to be 3 or 4 moves ahead of the guy if you can. You want to be a chess fighter because chess fighters are far and few in between. Checker fighters are a dime a dozen. You know what I
mean? Right.
You want to be able to set traps like pest control. You know what I mean? Walk these guys in. Sure, it's nice to knock a guy out with a clean shot, and then that's that. But it's really nice when you use your strategy and you're breaking this guy down, and you're taking away everything. All the questions he's coming with, you got better answers. Boom, bang, you're taking away, and then you finish him off with the coup de grace, whatever that may be. Boom, you get him up out of there.
Right.
That's what the art and science of boxing is all about. Put yourself in a position where you get him and he can't hit you. That's what the whole art and science of boxing is all about. Am I right?
Absolutely. Let's give these people another example of a good setup, man. Like, all right, so let's just see. Let me think right now. Somebody's throwing the right hand excessively at you. How are we going to set a trap for him?
Well, it depends on the guy we have. But let's just say, for example, we have the guy's throwing a right hand. He's throwing a right hand. Let's say he's a little bit taller and he's a little more lanky, right? And he's shooting down, ping, 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 ping. And my guy's maybe, 3 inches shorter, and he's clothing. I have my guy line his lead foot up with his back foot and keep throwing the jab at his backhand. So now we're in position. We're gonna catch the hook. We ain't worried about that. We're gonna catch that hook, but we keep throwing it at the right hand, goating him, baiting him, and throw the right hand. As soon as we throw the right hand, we slip over and fall in with the right hand and nail it. Boom, knock him dead. Run him into the shot. Or
you're walking into a counter right hand.
Yeah, but what we're doing is we're aiming our jab at his backhand, right? But while we're doing it, we're blinding him to the fact that we're sliding our lead foot over. So our lead foot is lined up with his out foot, with his back foot, right? So now all we have to do is he throw right hand, we just fire right hand and fall over with it. Boom. When his shot will go right over our shoulder, ours will go right down the chute. You know what I mean? That's a devastating shot.
Almost like if you're boxing
knocked the boy out with. We call it the machete.
almost like if you're boxing a southpaw, setting up that right
Absolutely.
hand
Almost
down.
every boxing southpaw. Absolutely. Absolutely. But this is you're getting aggressive. You're jabbing his back up because you want him to throw it. Now, maybe he
Right.
decides to throw the hook instead. It wouldn't matter because if he throws the hook, your right hand and beat straight shot. Sure, the 2 points always going to be a straight line. So you fall with the right hand, nail him there. Because no matter how tight you are throwing the hook, your chin's exposed on that center line. So just fall in with the right hand to the center line. Bang. You know? That's a good one. Or you can use a throwaway hook. Use a throwaway hook. And you know, he's just hold the right hand to use a throwaway hook now. And let's just say he throws the jab. You catch the jab, you throw the throwaway hook. You know he's going to catch it, and he throws back his right hand. Always throw the hook. It doesn't matter. Whatever he throws, you punch right in between the shot. Boom. You do the same move right down the center. You know, or you can set it up to the body. You rip a hard 45 to the body. You know he like to counter and throw the straight right hand or whatever. Boom. As soon as you fire, you slide over. Bang. Shoot the right hand right down the middle. You control that center line. Great counter punches catching the way in. It's a well-timed shot. A well-timed shot beats a speedy shot 9 out of 10 times. Precision could be power, right?
Right. So all types of tricks
But the
you
thing
can
is,
do,
you got to know how
man.
to do the throwaways and the decoys. There's no weight on these shots. There's throwaways and the decoys. There's no weight on it because you don't want no weight on it. You want to be able to put it out there, and as soon as it lands, you're able to react. Now, if you put weight on the shot, you know, you're vulnerable because you're committed. You don't want to be committed. You only want to look like you're committed. Smoke and mirrors. Like Sun Tzu said in the book, The Art of War, all warfare is based off deception. You got to deceive him. Show him something and give him something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. You gotta give a target, take it away. And then you gotta give them something.
Absolutely.
And then you gotta give them something when you take it away.
Absolutely. Smoke and mirrors.
Right. That's why the check hook is such a great move. You know what I mean? You give that guy that probing jab, he goes ahead, he thinks he's gonna hit you with that right hand over the top. You drop that rear shoulder and check him right over the top.
Or you do the Bernard move, which is similar to that. It's a check, but you only do a quarter pivot. So when you do the quarter pivot, you shoot that shovel back underneath. Dang, hit it right in the liver. That's a beautiful move. I watched him drop 3 guys with that shit in the gym. Gabi was the only one to get dropped. He got hit, but he didn't get dropped. I told him he's going to do it. Nah, yeah, he did it. Once he gets your timing down pat, he reads patterns. He sees how you carry your hands and where you lay your head. He said, I say, he's going to get him. And he got it. You know what I mean? Like watching a master at work. Like, you know it's coming. You know what I mean? But you just don't know when it's coming. But you know it's coming. You know?
Right.
Kind of like Mickey Ward. They said, how the hell did Mickey Ward? All we had was the left hook to the body. And everybody knew it, and somebody landed it. Yeah, because he knew it was coming. You just didn't know when it was coming. He was a master of disguise. Did you ever see the one where he was fighting that Mexican kid? He was getting the snot kicked out of him. And,
who's that?
They put it in the movie. And that's how good it was. They were about to stop it. It was on HBO. So instead of slipping the Mickey, like for the 45, the hook up top and ripped the 45 to the body, he threw the 45. He threw the hook up top. He stepped southpaw. So he did the Fitzsimmons shift. Boom. And he hit him with the hook up top, and then he brought him right to the body. Bong, dumped him. That was a beautiful move. That's why you got to be able to fight out of shifts. These shifts and switches. You know what I mean? The Fitzsimmons shift, the switch, the D'Amato shift. You know what I mean? Things like that. Very good, very good.
No, you don't see that. You don't see that very often anymore at all.
Nobody does that anymore. Well, you got to look at Bob Fitzsimmons beat Gentleman Jim Corbett. You
don't even see it from guys who could switch, like guys like Terrence Crawford, for instance. I don't see him doing stuff like that, and he's capable.
Oh, he's capable, but they don't do it because they don't train it. Because it's kind of like a lost art. You know, if you watch old films, I got an old film with Gentleman Jim Corbett fought Ruby Robert Fitzsimmons. Bob Fitzsimmons, the first guy to win the light heavyweight, the middleweight, and the heavyweight title, the first 3-division guy on that side. And Bob Fitzsimmons had a joint where he would catch the jab and he would deflect it and he would step southpaw. You know what I mean? And he would shoot that shovel right in the solar plexus. He called it the mark. They called the solar plexus the mark, and he dumped a lot of guys with it. He won the heavyweight championship of the world from Jim Corbett with that shot. He threw a jab, and he knew when he threw a jab, the boy was going to jab back. Soon as he jabbed back and overcommitted, he deflected and shot it right up the middle. Boom!
Well, how would he deflect the shot?
He would deflect it and slide in at the same time with the rear hand. He would hit it as he was hitting it this way, just a little bit. As he was hitting it, he was stepping forward into the southpaw position and punching with the shovel underneath simultaneously. Wow. It's a great move. Called the Fitzsimmons shift. Old timers showed me this. I don't know. 81, 70, 79, 80, somewhere 1979, 1980 showed me that. remember the kid. He even showed me the video, but I was like, I looked at it, and said, okay. And I looked at it, and nobody else is doing it. But off of that, you can also hit the switch, because once you go here, boom, and you hit that switch, now you're right behind it. You're right behind his shoulders. You're in the safe, and you're in that 45, and you dig that joint in there, you kill him. Because he ain't taking two to the same spot. I don't care how many sit-ups and how much table work you do. You ain't taking two of them in the same spot, especially off the blind side. The first one's a blind shot, and then when you hit that switch, the second one's even more of a blind shot. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they said, like Customato says, always good to put yourself in a position when you get him and he can't hit you. Whole in science of boxing, all about. He said a professional fighter has to learn how to hit and not get hit at the same time, still be exciting. You got to be clever, you got to be smart, not get hit. When you can do that, then you're a fighter, or something along them lines. You know what I mean?
You gotta learn how to. You gotta be exciting, man. We talked about this before.
You got to. Atlas,
he
told Teddy.
I talked a lot about that with Shakur Stevenson's last performance. Shakur Stevenson, though he won and he did what he had to do, he forgot one of the biggest elements of boxing, which is you have to be exciting.
Yeah. He'll get it though. He's still young. You got to remember when Andre Ward first came out the Olympics, he was running and this, that, and other. And then Virgil Hunter took him and he had to professionalize him because, you had to have him a certain way to win the gold. And then he took him and he professionalized him and he made him, I think he made him a tremendous fighter. You know what I mean? So I think they're going to do it with Shakur. He's still young. He'll get it.
Yeah, he's definitely capable. That's
the thing
sure.
with now is they're rushing these fighters. They're rushing these guys to the title too quick. Like they said, well, he's still a work in progress. Why the hell is he working in progress if he's a world champion? Because they're making him world champions too soon. You know what I mean? In the old days, you couldn't even win a world title that had 45, 50, 60 fights. Now these guys are 10, 11, 15 fights, world champions. Come on, man. You got to give a chance for a guy to develop. You know what I mean? You got to give a guy a chance to develop. They're rushing him to the title. And yeah, they're beating these guys because, good matchmaking and, things of that nature, of course. But, you got to give a guy a chance to develop. They ain't doing it. So they're cheating him. You know what I mean? And then they're getting, ground up in the media. Oh, this guy's not exciting. He's not because he hasn't had a chance to develop the ability to be. You know what I mean? Everything takes time in this line of work. Like we talked about earlier, the learning curve in boxing is long. Like Customato said, drill a fighter and make him do right so much he couldn't do wrong if he wanted to. It takes time. In order to be an elite Olympic level amateur, you got to develop a style that's like basically fencing with gloves on. Tap, slide out. Tap, slide out. Tap, slide out. So that the judges see you landing on me and me hitting nothing but air on you. Right? So now when they turn pro, we got to go back to learning how to be professionalized. Because most Olympic guys and the elite amateurs, they don't fight on the inside. They hold, right? So they don't develop a pocket game. How to fight in pocket.
Never said too many title organizations also. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely, 110%. I like the old days when there was only 8 world champions. There was only 8 weight classes and 1 world champion per weight class. So there were 8 world champions. That was the best because everybody knew who the world champion was. Like if I ask you right now, who's the WBC minimum weight champion? You're going to tell me, I don't know. Okay, and if you ask me, I'm going to tell you, I definitely don't know. That's a Google question because I couldn't help you. You know what I mean? But back then, if I asked you who was the featherweight champion in the world, you say whoever it was. I said, who's the heavyweight champion in the world? Joe Louis. Who's the middleweight champion? Sugar Ray Robinson. Who's the welterweight champion? Carmine Basilio. You know what I mean? You'd run them off like that because we boxing guys, we would know. But we're boxing guys and we don't even know who half these champions are. Because there's 16 weight classes and what's 16 and 16, 32, 32. There's 64 world champions, if I'm correct, right? Because there's 16 weight classes times 4. 16 and 16 and 32, 32, 64. Yeah, 64 world champions, bro. Come on, man. Let's get realistic. And that's not even counting the WBA, which I love. But they got a regular champion, a super champion, and an interim champion. And the interim's only supposed to be when the champion's not available to fight, but they be having them anyway. So, come on, bro. The business of boxing, man. Let's go back to 1 world champion. There's only 1 world that we live in. Let's go back to 1 world champion. There
should only be 1 world champion, to be honest. It doesn't make
only one organization, one organization, and 1 world champion. But see, the organizations, they get sanction fee. They take 3% of your purse. So if you're fighting for 2 of them, you're giving up 6% of your purse. That's a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's all about money. Then the WBC is good, but they got silver belts, They got special belts they make for special fights. Like, come on, man. We just need one world champion in each weight class. If you want to keep 16 weight classes, okay, that's fine. I'm all right with that. But I'm really not. But I could bend on that one. But just make one world champion for each. That's the 16 world champions instead of 64, right?
Yo, Peter Nieves, which I told you is my cousin. He was a professional fighter, Golden Glove champion. I'm gonna put that link in that thing, man. See if you can click on this link. I'd like to have you come on here real quick, talk with me and Billy. But I just put the link right there in the description. But yeah, Billy, there's a lot about boxing that's changed since the old times. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
But somebody made a good point though about what you said about champions too soon. Leon Spinks won the heavyweight title with 10 fights. What's your comeback to that?
Yeah. There's exceptions to every rule. I mean, that's nothing. Jeff Finnick won the title. Didn't Jeff Finnick win the title in 7 fights? You know what I mean? And
right.
He was very successful. But these guys were of a different breed. In the 80s, they was a different breed because my comeback to that is going to be this, that the amateur system in the 80s or the 70s and 80s was more professionalized than it is now because you could actually train how you fight to be a professional. It would only be 3-minute rounds, but it was still professional. You could move your head. You could go to the body. They counted body shots. They counted head and upper body movement. They counted, things of that nature. That's why in the 76, the United States destroyed the world. And then that's why they started doing all these, changes so that the world could be more competitive with the United States. So if you're doing something like a carpentry apprenticeship, if you're an apprentice and let's just say you was in the amateurs, I don't know, 5 years. Okay. And then you come onto a job site that does carpentry that you're doing and you're going to be fine. But if, let's just say you do woodworking for 5 years and now you come in and do carpentry for framing. You never framed a day in your life. Yeah, you work with wood for 5 years, but it wasn't framing. So now you got to readjust yourself to a whole different type of construction. It might be similar tools, but it's still different. You know what I mean? So that
Absolutely.
would be my rebuttal to that. And of course, there is definitely exception to all rules, But if you look at the amateurs back then, you would see much better professionalization. They fought more as a professional.
Well, hold that thought because I'm gonna bring somebody who fought in the amateurs years ago. We got Peter Nieves here. This is family, man. I finally get a chance to chop it up with family.
It might be similar too, but still different. You know what I mean? So that would be my rebuttal to that. And of course, there is definitely exception to all rules.
What's good, cuz?
What's going on, Peter? What's going on, baby?
Finally.
I got Billy Briscoe and I got Peter Nieves. Peter, let Billy know a little bit about your background and the people know.
What's going on, guys? So I started fighting at 8 years old. Well, that was the first time I walked into the gym. And we're talking about the early 80s. You're talking about 79, 80. And I was fortunate to grow up in the gym.
About the same. I walked in the gym.
I was fortunate to grow up in the gym I was already around champions in New York. You know what I mean? I'm talking about guys like Duran. When Duran would come and train in New York, he would train in the gym over there in Ringside, Times Square. At that time, the 8th Avenue Boxing Club, and even the old Gleason on 30th Street, where they didn't want me because I was a kid. I was the only kid in there at that time. But to go back, junior Olympic champ 2 or 3 times in the early 80s. I went to the Nationals, I think, in 84, 83, 84. Roy Jones at that time was fighting at 119. He won the tournament there. Won the Golden Gloves in 86, 87. At that time, teammates were Riddick Bowe, Michael Bent, Aaron Davis. So these were the guys that I was always around. We always fought and traveled since we were like little kids. I'm talking about from like 10 years old and up. And back then, we used to fight in what was called smokers. So these fights, they were not sanctioned back then. You know, you guys came up before. It used to be called the AAU. and then they changed it over to USA ABF, the Amateur Boxing Federation. Then they changed it after that. They called it USA Boxing.
Absolutely.
I think that's what it's called now, right? I don't know because I don't follow amateur boxing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still there.
So
US in there.
yeah, and I can even remember fighting in the old smokers. Teddy and Cus, they used to bring Mike down to fight in this place called Apollo Boxing Gym that's no longer there anymore. It used to belong to Nelson Cuevas, God rest his soul. COVID took him last year. And I remember all of us weighing in, everybody in their tighty whities, waiting to fight. And the fights used to go on till late at night, man. So that's where most of us got our experience. And then you had, the top prospects at that time, they're watching us already, and supporting us. So it was a good time. And guys like Camacho, God rest his soul, Vito Antifermo, man, so many guys. And then there's the guys that were badass fighters that nobody knew about, but the big top cats used to stay away from them because they didn't want no part of it. You know what I'm saying? So it was a great time. Slick fighters. It was an awesome time growing up in the fight game because you had the cream of the crop, really, at that time. And we were learning under them, like guys that we used to look up to all the time was guys like Breland. Who else, man? So there's so many guys from the 80s that from the 84 class that went to LA. So we were the class coming up after them. So we always looked up to them all the time. And there was always, giving us pointers on what to do and how to do and things like that. Besides our trainers, telling us what to do, you know what I mean? And then, there was the guys there, fighters I'm not going to name that, they were doing badass stuff, but outside the ring, they were doing even worse. You know what I mean? In the 80s was big with, drugs and stuff like that, man. So it was crazy. So I learned what to do and not to do.
Peter, you also fought as a professional. Talk to me a little bit about your professional background.
No doubt about it. So I turned pro after 88, right? So 88, we were vying on the team to go to Korea, right? So when I went to the nationals in '88, you had the cream of the crop, right? You had guys out there like one of my guys like Kevin Kelly. Me and Kevin, we were like rivals all the time in New York. We fought twice in the amateur. In fact, he was my first open class fight. When I won the gloves in '86, he had won the 119 Open. But in '86, I was struggling to make. I won that tournament at 106 pounds. Really, 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 I had no business fighting at 106. I killed myself to make that weight. I won the tournament, right? The next day, I was already at 119. I was like, I ain't killing myself no more. And my trainer said, no, you can't be grown. Yo, if you see pictures and videos of me fighting like that, it looked like I was on crack. That's how skinny I was. And making weight all the time. My biggest struggle throughout my entire career was not the guy across the ring from me, but the weight, the scale. So when I turned pro in '88, when we went to the nationals, we already saw who they had handpicked to go to Korea. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of politics involved. Not taking away nothing from all the good fighters that came out of that class. Because, there was nowhere to run. There was nowhere to hide, bro. Everybody was badass. So if you took an L, you took an L to somebody that was good. You know what I'm saying? That's why I turned pro in '89. And I could not get a fight at all for the first 6 months. For the first 6 months. And all they were offering was like tough guys. So, and my first pro fight that happened in Gleason's Arena in Brooklyn. This place used to be a parking lot. right? And this goes to show you how the fight game is so different. This was an indoor parking garage. They turned it into an arena for us to fight. And you know how I got paid my first fight? In fact, I didn't even get paid. We signed the contract to fight. They gave us tickets to sell for our purse. That's how we got paid. Or at least I did. But I know mostly everybody else did. But the guy's name was Ralph Mann. He was also a two-time Golden Glove champion before me. He was 83 and 84. And that fight went like a blur, man. It was like the bell rang, and it was like, bing, 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 bing. It was over, and I won. And then my second fight, I fought against another guy that was highly touted in the amateurs, good fighter. His name was Reyes Munoz. He was from Jersey. We crossed paths in the amateurs, but he was in a weight class, bigger than me. But we met, we fought, and I remember reading. There was like a little tiny article in the paper how they had him, beating, and I was like, all right, that's cool, whatever. They could do whatever. We wound up beating him. So I went undefeated for my first 8 fights. My first 8 pro. I went 8-0 until I had my first loss against John Brown. And so John Brown later on, he was a tough guy too from I believe Philly.
So Billy, do you know John Brown?
Yeah, John Brown. I
Short
think he was
fight.
from Atlantic City. Right?
Tough.
Yeah, short African American guy.
Yeah, man, tough cat.
Tough guy, yeah.
And it was funny because I was always the smaller guy when I fought. So and I was one guy that I didn't like to watch videos of the guys that I was fighting before. I was like, nah, man. In the first couple of rounds, I would always figure them out. So I go to the weigh-in, and I see this dude for the first time in my life, amateur or pro. I fight somebody shorter than me, and I was like, damn. I was like, I got to figure this out, and it threw me all off, man. Threw me all off. So I suffered my first loss against.
Yeah, he was real awkward.
He was, man. This dude, all he did was throw punches, man. And because he was so short, you know what I'm saying? It was hard to.
Yeah. So let's talk
strange
about
angles.
Let's talk about that real quick. I want both of you guys' insight on this. You teach, you learn good fundamentals. You learn boxing. You have good trainers. They teach you how to block, catch, shoot, whatever. Then you bump into a guy like the guy that you're describing, who just comes at you throwing all these punches. First, I'm gonna ask Billy, how do you forget training for the guy, because I know you can't really train for that. But what are you telling your guy in the corner? And then Peter, I want you to answer to me. How did you deal with that? At least, how did you try to deal with that? So, Billy, go ahead, go first.
That's a complicated question, man, because you got to look at the guy that you have. You know what I mean? The kind of guy that you have. If he's if he's more of a boxer type, you would try to keep him on the outside and keep him boxing. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to let that guy get in because he's short. So what his basic weapon is going to be is an overhand right and a left hook. You know what I mean? And then when he gets inside, but you try to get inside. Then if he does get inside, tie him up. You know what I mean? Tie him up and try to get back to the center and to try to control the center of the ring. Because them guys that are unorthodox and awkward, man, it starts like a uppercut lands as overhand right. You know what I mean? Guys like Mayorga, that's why he was able to beat a guy like Vernon Forrest, who was so successful. Awkward because you don't train for that. You know what I mean?
There's no way to train.
Unorthodox punches are hard to get away from. You could be the sharpest fighter in the world and get caught with that dumb shit, and you be like, how the fuck I get caught with that dumb shit?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So Peter, if you had to go back, Peter, what do you think you could have did differently in that fight? Because I didn't see the fight, so I just want to hear maybe your opinion.
I don't know. I don't even know if I have that fight anyway on YouTube. They probably took it off YouTube if I put it up. The only thing that I could suggest or recommend, if you're always going to fight somebody that is shorter than you, you got to keep him outside always. And then he has shorter arms. And if he gets inside, he's going to tear you up. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not gonna beat him in the inside at all.
Absolutely.
You got to keep him outside all night long with that jab, check hook, off balance, side to side, a lot of movement. You know what I'm saying?
There's a balance there.
I watched heads also too, because I remember that we butted heads so many times. It's bad. It's bad. You know. But those guys, you got to keep them out. But go ahead. I want to hear how your side of it.
No, I wanted to ask you a question because when you boxing a shorter guy and he's putting all that pressure on you, and based off of what you're saying, you got to keep him on the outside. You got to do a lot of movement. A lot of that excessive movement and a lot of that focus on trying to stay on the outside could tire you out. So how would you balance that where you're not trying to gash yourself in those situations? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, you got no choice but to thump with him. You got to fight. You got to sit down, bite that mouthpiece, and punch. You know what I'm saying? And you got to go through it. And I remember that.
Peter, you obviously have a lot of knowledge because you've been in the ring for many years. How would you coach a guy in that situation, being that now that you have that experience under your belt? What would you tell him?
Like I said, as soon as you keep him on the outside on that stick, you blind them with the first one and bang them with the second one. You know what I'm saying? But what my trainer used to call jab press out, meaning the heavy jab. You pop them out there, you flick them, you blind them with the first one, then bang, you bang them with the second one, and keep turning him. And if he gets you on the inside, you tie him up, walk him around, take him a walk for the park, turn him to the side, and back to the jab. That jab got to be 24/7. It's the most important thing, the most important punch ever in boxing. And I got to give props to my man, the Sosa Crew for Life in Brooklyn, my man Adriano Sosa, for guiding Chris, Little B-Hop, to his victory, because that jab was important. And he worked that jab OT all night long to keep that dude off of him.
I didn't see the fight last night.
Overtime.
I didn't see Chris fight last night, man. I actually didn't get a chance to watch it. How'd he look?
He looked sharp. The jab was.
He looked good. He looked real good. Boxed the hell out of the guy.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because he admitted in the end, I seen that kid fight. I know that kid was strong, but I know he's no 130. There's a difference. When you fight 26, you're really a 30, 34, 33 all the time.
I seen that Mongolian kid knock out guys in the gym out in California.
Mm-hmm. And that's another kid that was an Olympian. You know what I mean? But he did his thing, man. He kept them outside all night long. Because if he don't let that dude inside, it would have been a different story. And he did the right thing. The jab all the time. So back to that situation. Absolutely. You got to keep those dudes outside all the time, because if not, they're gonna give you a hard night all night. And I'm talking about headbutts, cuts, all that stuff. And that's a whole nother thing, man. When you cut, when you bleed, and when you can't see, it's a whole different story, man. I know because I've been there. In my 5th fight, I fought on ESPN. It was called Night of the Olympians because it was me. Well, not me, because I wasn't an Olympian, but with the guys that fought, it was Ray Mercer, Alfred Cole, Carver Hall fought that night. Who else? It was a big show in South Mountain, Jersey Arena. And Foreman was making his comeback also that night.
That was the triple threat gym guys, right?
I think so.
Wasn't that Ray Mercer, Al Cole, and Charles the Natural Murray?
Right, Charles, yeah, man. Me and Charles, we were roommates, man.
Yeah.
And that was another slick fighter too, man. Charles was badass. He was a slick ass fighter. So I fought that night against this dude named Pat Simeon he was from the Virgin Islands.
Rochester, right?
He was from the Virgin Islands. He was from the Virgin. He was another guy that came. He fought. He was on the Olympic team in '88. So, and I forget what his record was. I don't remember. But I was undefeated at that time. And they were also filming Rocky IV. Tommy Morrison, God rest his soul, he fought that night there too. So it was funny because we're all in the same locker room. It's a huge locker room. And then when George Foreman walks in, everybody just stopped what they were doing because we couldn't believe the size of this man. And he walks in there, and then he just bangs out like these push-ups, and he's like walking around, and you see the size of his arms. It's like the size of one of our legs. And it was just like, damn. And then it was like, yo, that's George Foreman. That's, it was like, you couldn't believe it. Then later, Stallone walks in, and we had to sign all these things that if we came out in the movie, whatever, all these disclaimers. So it was a long night, right? It was a long night. A lot of the fights went the decision. And, bro, I was the swing bout. My hands were falling asleep in the gloves. So I fought this kid. And the first round we come out, boom, boom, boom. We're banging it out. I'm doing my thing. Second round we come out. And then they cut the fight from 6-4. From a 6 round to 4. Because the night was already long. Everybody was going the distance. So anyway, I got, we were butting heads. Boom, cut here. Next round, boom, cut here. So now I'm bleeding out of both sides. And, the doctor, can you see? Yeah, I can see. So I couldn't see shit. But I wasn't going out like that. So talking about traps, like you guys were talking about earlier. So I set up a trap for my man in the third round. I went to the corner. And I let them think I was hurt because I'm bleeding. There's blood all over the place. They're ready to stop the fight. And I don't know what I did. I just banged the body. And when I did, his elbow went up. I turned him, and it was a wrap. From pillar to post, I was banging that dude all over the place. Pillar to post. And then, we went to the decision. I got the decision. But I also got 20 stitches.
Damn.
And that took me out like 6 months to heal up from that before I can get back.
You should have had Billy, man. He one of the best cut men right now out of Philadelphia. You would have had Billy. He'd have fixed that right up.
I wish. The one that was there that was able to help out at the end, God rest his soul, was Al Gavin. And Al, him and I, we went back. When I first won the gloves in '86, it was under that gym in Gramercy on 14th Street. So he was able to help out. But
that was a nice spot.
Yeah, and when
Bob Jackson was there too, right?
Yeah, Bob. There was so many guys I can't even remember. But anyways, it like when it comes to cuts, if you're gonna bleed, you're gonna bleed. There's nothing you can do about it. It's no matter what cut man is there, and I learned that from the great Eddie Aliano, and I'm pretty sure Billy, you know who that is. If you remember who's Eddie Aliano.
Eddie Aliano, one of our guys, yeah, good.
One of the greatest cut.
Absolutely.
So me through being cut and learning how to deal with them, I learned how to be a cut man also. You know what I mean?
You know how to work cuts, Peter?
I know how to work cuts. I haven't been in the game in a long time, but that's not something that you ever forget. You understand? So I know how to do that.
Are you training guys right now? Are you training guys?
No.
Are you trying to pass on the gift, or you just chilling watching it from the sidelines right now?
Right now I'm just from the sidelines. It was years ago. There was a gym that I used to work for. Actually, I used to work for the New York City Housing Authority when I stopped fighting. And it was called the Batanzas Boxing Gym. And a lot of guys came through there. This was in the Bronx, and probably one of the poorest neighborhoods in the United States ever. You know what I mean? And so I was there. I was working as a coach. We used to take the kids. We had Golden Glove champions and stuff like that. Kid gloves, Junior Olympics, and all of that stuff. And then not only that, so I was in the game. I I went through a lot of adversity. I had lost my mother. I lost other family. You know, when they say it happens in threes, it really does, because it was like back-to-back losses I had as far as like family members. So I was out of the gym for a while, grieving, and you know, my head wasn't straight, and I wasn't the same fighter. You know what I mean? After that, and then working with the kids, I got the fever again. Working with the kids, I got the fever again. So in 2000, I said, you know what? Let's go back to this. So I was out the game for like 8 years. My last fight was in it was in the Paramount, what they used to call the Felt Forum back in the day. If you remember Billy, right? The Felt Forum, they used to be fights.
Yeah, I remember.
Every 2 weeks, bro. Every 2 weeks, and I used to be in there all the time. Every 2 weeks, I used to watch all these guys fighting in the 80s. And then when they had the big cards there, forget it. I was always there. You know, it was funny. It was like the workers in Madison Square Garden. They already knew who I was, and they didn't even bother me with tickets or anything. They were just like, "These were the fighters. That's it. Let them go." And I was 12, 13, 14. I remember I was there the night that Camacho fought Rosario. God bless both of their souls. And that was nuts that night. That was nuts that night. I was there when Duran beat Dave.
Yo, was Camacho still with Billy Giles back then or no?
He was not. He had been left Billy. He was with the dude after, what's his name? I can't remember his name right now. Yeah, but that was way after that. He left Billy way after that. So yeah, I was there the night that Duran fought.
Billy Giles, a hell of a trainer.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's Morris Park Boxing Gym in the Bronx also. Him and Tucker. If you know who's Tucker, Tucker's Aaron Davis' father. Former welterweight champion of the world. And yeah, so that night, that was crazy that night. But I was also there the night that Duran beat Davey Moore. And you want to talk about guys that became champion quick, Davey was one of them. God rest his soul. And I knew, I was like, we used to train together in the Times Square gym in 42nd when the deuce was the deuce back in the day. That all it was weed and porn and yeah, man. You had 3 gyms within 3 blocks. You had the Bomb Squad boxing gym. Everybody used to think I used to go into, and that was on the 2nd floor on 42nd Street on top of Show World. So you had to walk in to where the adult video was, but they had a split entrance. So everybody used to think this little kid is going into the adult video, but I was going upstairs to the gym that was on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So it was crazy.
Yeah.
And that was on 42nd. But if you walked up the block, you had Times Square on the 2nd floor also.
Yeah, they go up the long dark steps.
Right. Yeah. You had Pepper and what's his name? I can't remember. They were always those cats. And Laporte was there training. Davey Moore used to train there. I forget who else used to train up in there. It was so many good fighters that came through that place also. And then on 40th Street, right across the street from the Port Authority on 8th Avenue was Ringside. So you have 40th Street, then you had 40 and the one on 42nd Street, and you had Gleason's on 30th Street before they left to Brooklyn.
A lot of gyms.
So it was like, like I said, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, bro. You know what I mean? But it was a good time for boxing back then. Good time. And Davey, I remember Davey training for Duran. I used to be like, Davey was fast and Davey was strong and he was, real good fighter. And I was like, man, he's gonna fight Manuel de Piedra. I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go. And sure enough, but deep down I said I knew. And I think I still have. Yeah. That was the night of the Billy Collins and Louis Brestos incident. Also, I remember that. And I felt so bad for Louis because Louis was a sweet, everybody looks at Louis and he's a monster. And I was like, if they only knew Louis like I knew, you know what I mean? He was a soldier. He did what he was told. He didn't ask no questions. Because as a fighter, you're taught, shut up.
Yeah.
That's it. You got nothing to say. You got nothing to say. Shut up and listen. That's it. So that's how that was there. But getting back to the kids, so I caught the fever, training the kids, this, that, and the other, and then we would have events in the gym. Some fighters, they would donate their time and they would come, and one of them was Angel Manfredi. And Manfredi at that time was doing his thing. He was training for a fight, and he was asking for sparring, and there really wasn't no sparring there. I told him, I said, yo, I said, I'll spar with you. And he was like, you in some type of shape? I was like, yeah. Really, I wasn't. I was like, yeah. So then I sparred with Manfredi. And then Angel afterwards told me, he's like, bro, you should be fighting. When he told me that, I was like, you serious? He's like, dog, you should be fighting. And I can't see no reason why you shouldn't be fighting. So that gave me the bug to come back. So then I started coming, so I fought. I fought after that. I fought. That was right before 9/11 too. So I was supposed to fight around that time on that card, and that card, you already know, it went to pieces. Nothing happened. Everything stopped. No baseball, no back. There was no sports. There was nobody getting together nowhere. And then little by little, things started happening, but they didn't have no big events for a minute. So I did my comeback fight in Allentown, and I fought this kid. And if you're from that area, Billy, you might know the kid was Julio Martinez, southpaw, ball cat. So I was fighting like
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I was fighting like around, but I was like 140. You know what I'm saying? I was coming down from like maybe 150 to get to maybe 135. I was thinking, because you're away from the game a long time, and I lived a clean life always, bro. But when I stopped fighting, I said I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna live life.
Yeah.
When you stop fighting, fighting, you gotta give up everything. You gotta give up sex.
Absolutely.
You gotta give up hanging out. You ain't got no friends. Nothing. It's like, being in the Chinese, in the Buddha, you being in a Buddhist camp, man. Straight up. That's how my mentality was, So anyway, I trained this kid. Well, I was trained to fight somebody else. And then for whatever reason on the day of the fight, they couldn't make it. The commission said something about the kid not able to pass his tests and all this other stuff, but they said, well, we got this guy here, he's got some weight on you, this, that, and the other. And I was like, all right, how much weight you talking about? He was like about 12 pounds over. I was like, bro, I ain't fighting nobody that big, man. This is my first fight in like 8 years. I'm not doing this. And he's like, I said, but I tell you what, make him lose 2 pounds and we'll do it. So we did it. So then he's lefty. My first fight coming back after 8 years. And then the dude's bigger than me. So make a long story short, I stopped him in like the 4th round. I mean, I had dropped him twice. And, I was always a fighter that was, I always went to the body. I always fought side to side. A boxer puncher type of fight I was. In the beginning, I was like, I used to come right at you. Boom. But then we got smart. We was like, we can't fight like that all the time, especially much less with a left-handed fighter. You know, so you know we took care of that. That was in Allentown. Then I did another fight in Allentown after that, and the guy that was helping me out get the fights, he was a good friend of mine. We came up together in the gym in the early '80s, and he had some connections with main events. So I was able to get onto a main event. In fact, I got on a main event. I got on the. I was the first fight of the Gotti Ward fight. The first one. So when I got in there, and at that time you had the guys coming up. I think at that time was like Bojado. When Bojado was like hitting hard, this, that, and the other, and I used to be like, you know, these guys, they're good fighters. I don't knock them. But I said, they ain't been hit yet. They don't know what it is to bleed. They don't know what it is to fight. You know what I'm saying? You know. So I said, yeah, you know, if this dude could help me make that fight, let's do it. You know. So we fought that night against somebody from Connecticut. And, you know, it was funny because we fought in front of the judges. That was it. There was nobody in the arena. Nobody. It was hilarious. And it was so cold. After the first round, I think the first punch the kid threw, I went under the jab and I hit him with an uppercut. And the uppercut, I hit him like right in the top of the forehead. And the pain went right all the way up. And I was like, fuck, already. And then my trainers, you know, I come back to the corner and they want to dash me with water and all that. I was like, yo, I don't want none of that. I'm freezing. I'm still not warmed up yet. They're like, all right. And they're like, yo, what's wrong? I was like, I hit him with the first shot. I said, this hand is already shot. So, you know, I had to fight right hand. You know, I fought with one hand the rest of the night. I beat him. And at that time, I was already coming down on weight. I was already like about 136. So I was at the weight where I felt, you know, good. And then after that, I got called out by, I had all these guys calling me out. I think Paulie called me out because they were up and coming. And I know these guys from like the amateurs. And I was like, yo, you guys are crazy. But I was like, all right, let them be.
Yeah, your pedigree is crazy, Peter. You got a crazy pedigree. You know what I'm saying? We gotta do another one of these with you. Well, we just gonna go through everything. You know what I'm saying? Because I got a little limited time. But yo, your shit is ridiculous. Your shit is ridiculous, man. I didn't realize how much you really done in this game, man. It's crazy. Where do you live now? You live in Florida, right?
I live in Florida, yeah, man. So when you come down,
you family. Yo, Billy, this is my family, Bill. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, man. So when I see you doing your thing, bro, I'm happy. It makes me happy, bro.
He's done a lot on the block.
What was that, Billy?
You broke up, Billy.
Yeah.
Billy's connection is a little funny over there.
Nah, man, but when you come down, bro, you gotta let me know. So like that,
I said he's been around the block. You know what I mean? Paid his dues.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man.
Peter, we're gonna do another one of these, man. I'm gonna bring you back on here, man. We're gonna do another one of these, and I'm gonna definitely come down and see you. I'll be in Florida eventually. I plan on living down there at some point. So
mostly everybody does come down here. You know.
Yeah, you already know the deal. You already know my family's in West Palm Beach. So, but yo, Peter, man, I want to say thank you for coming on here, man, shedding some light to the people. I'm gonna hit you up privately so I could bring you back on here.
Yeah, man.
There's more that I want to talk to you about.
No doubt.
Thank you for coming on here, Peter. I'm gonna talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, guys. God bless.
Later. Billy, that's crazy. Billy, that's crazy, man. Like, the people don't understand like these kind of boxing conversations we have, and then when we talk to people like Peter who been around for so long, like these are the conversations that we have behind the scenes on regular, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Like the people that do it, Like, I don't know if the people really realize the value of a conversation just even hearing some of this stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, that's it, man. Listen, guys, I think this is it. But we've been on here for a long ass time, man. I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna definitely cut this short. I mean, we've been on here for 2 hours
Okay.
and 40 minutes. We've been on here for 2 hours and 40
Time
minutes.
flies when we're chopping it up, right?
Yeah, but we're gonna do this again for sure.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for coming on.
Okay.
And you already know, man. I'm gonna talk to you soon, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Ladies, ladies and gentlemen, I should say, we got to, guys, you guys gotta understand, like, guys like Billy Briscoe, guys like my cousin Peter Nieves, man, it's just so much. It's like a wealth of boxing knowledge, man. Just listening to these guys talk is crazy. But if I don't end it, we'll be here talking forever. So, you know, I gotta save something for another day. I can't give y'all everything in one day. You dig what I'm saying? But I want to say thank you to everybody who hopped on. Guys, don't forget, if you use discount code C8 Independent 75, you're gonna get 75% off all my courses. I'm gonna keep bringing on knowledgeable people like this. I'm gonna bring Peter back on. I'm gonna bring Billy back on. I mean, hold on. I mean, seriously though, Johnson, Raymond, and Coach Ant, can't thank y'all enough. This is gold. Like, if you listen, if you don't realize what just happened right now, like what I just had on here, I mean, if you don't understand, like my man Johnson, Raymond, you know, Raymond, yeah, Raymond understands. Like, this is serious, man. Like, what I'm trying to bring to you guys is real boxing people who really do this, who really done this at the highest level, and this is who it is, man. You know what I mean? And I got more people like this that I'm gonna bring on. It's crazy, guys. The courses that I'm selling right now are 75% off. CA Independent 75. Again, it's a $100 course is $25, man. Like, dude, this is crazy. Take advantage of that. Cop the courses. I'm bringing you real boxing. The kind of people you hear and talk tonight is the kind of people I've surrounded myself with my whole life. You know what I mean? I make sure that I'm teaching real boxing because I have real boxing teachers. And this is literally teaching. Listening to these guys talking about, you know, weight cuts and headbutts and just the things that fighters go through that, you know, a lot of guys thinks it's all about like techniques and skills, man. There's a whole nother aspect of boxing, man. There's a whole nother aspect. It's like, what do you do when you get a headbutt? What do you do when, you know, you hurt yourself and now you got to fight with one arm? The game is totally different at that point. It's no longer, you know what I mean, skills and you got to dig deep. You know what I mean? Boxing is so much deeper than jab, crosses, and hooks. It's about heart, chin, will. You know what I mean? Discipline. You know what I mean? Just so many areas of boxing that people overlook when they're learning. And that's why I want to bring guys like this on who are going to explain to you guys and talk to you from a fighter standpoint, from a veteran trainer standpoint, from a cut man standpoint. Guys like Eddie Chambers, who are one of my greatest friends, who, you know, fought guys 40, 50 pounds heavier than him, 4 or 5 inches taller than him. You know what I mean? It's just boxing is serious, man. This is a serious thing. If it was easy, everybody be doing it. You know what I mean? Let me see real quick. Coach Ant, that's amazing that Pete is your cousin. It is amazing, man. I didn't even know, honestly. I had to find out, you know what I mean, one day. I'm like, damn. And then I started doing my research, and just him talking tonight, man, just shed light on how much he's actually accomplished, you know what I mean, in the game. It's crazy, you know what I mean? I want to buy all your courses, Coach. You already know what you could do, man. CoachAnthonyBoxing.com. Use the discount code. Save 75% off. Peter never says, thanks, Larry. Peter, man, it's an honor, man, to have you on here. I can't wait to do another one with you. I'm going to hit you up privately about that. We're just going to do just you and I, you know what I mean, and talk, you know what I mean? And I hope you could come back, Peter. He definitely will. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, man, big shout out to Billy Briscoe. who's a legendary boxing trainer out of the Philadelphia area, worked with Gabriel Rosado, worked with so many guys in the past, behind the scenes, shadow trained guys. Me and him have hours of conversation, just like this live today. We do this all the time, talking boxing strategy, camp strategy, just everything. You know what I'm saying? Just everything that you could think of. Me and Billy have these conversations, and honestly, I was a little hesitant about sharing some of this information because it's like bringing the plug. You know what I mean? You never share the plug, but you see, I shared it. Coach Anthony, I've been boxing for a year, but I had to leave the gym because I don't have money for it anymore. How can I keep improving and training at the same time? Listen, if you don't have the money for boxing, that's going to be difficult. But, you do have, your own, basically work on what you learned already, train hard. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out a way that you're going to get in front of somebody who's going to teach you and train you. Maybe if you show enough dedication and enough hard work and you get yourself in really good shape, you walk into one of these gyms that's producing fighters, and maybe somebody will take you on, like a trainer might coach you, or find like a recreational center or a PAL, something that's a free program. You know what I mean? There still are free programs out there for boxing. So, if you can go ahead and get a free program, get into one of those free programs and really show hard work and dedication, somebody eventually is going to notice you. You know what I mean? So don't let the money discourage you, but at the same time, you do have to go searching. You know what I'm saying? You do have to really, really show, and you have to put in the work, man, because when you really want it, believe me, God has a way of working itself out and putting the right people in your life. You know what I'm saying? Peter's info against short bulldog fighter was insightful. Different speeds on the jab. Absolutely. You know what I mean? I'm excited about tonight's show, man. I'm about to share everybody who's watching this later. You know what I mean? I hope you guys watch this again. It's a 2 hour and 45-minute thing, so you can just go through it, find this part you like, watch it a few times, because a lot of the times when you listen to this, it goes in one ear, out the other. Sometimes you got to listen to it again and watch it again, and you know what I mean? Be like, damn, like he really dropped the jewel. Like this dude really, really dropped the jewel. And that's how you learn, man. But ladies and gentlemen, I am out of here. You already know the deal. Let me go ahead and let you know one last time. CA Independent 75, my 4th of July weekend sale, 75%. Don't miss out. Go ahead, invest into yourself. You know what I mean? And thank you guys so much for showing up. And I'm going to show you that Southpaw versus Orthodox commercial with Eddie Chambers. Everybody wants to know how to box a Southpaw. Everybody who's a Southpaw wants to learn how to box the opposite stance. We're going to get into it. We're going to give away all the secrets. We're going to teach you so many great things, man. And luckily, we got a guy right here who can box both stands, Orthodox and Southpaw, and fast Eddie Chambers. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna learn a lot. You guys made a very wise decision, so let's not waste no time. Let's get right into it.